Chapter 96. Ji Xiaoya was so angry that she glared at her with her big eyes. I really have to hand it to you. The company's travel plan was originally a matter for the planning department. Ji Xiaoya had been working in the planning department when she first joined the company, so she knew a little about it. That day, when she went to look for Guan Nai, she had randomly picked an artist to test the waters. After using all kinds of methods, she finally found a common pattern among artists. Don't you know what they like? She sighed. I called you yesterday afternoon to talk about this, but when you picked up the phone, you were incoherent. I felt that something was wrong, so I called a cab to look for you. In the end, you ran out of your house and didn't say anything. Yi Huanyan looked confused. Of course I know what you're talking about. That's why I've been spending the past few days figuring out what those people like. That's so inefficient. Ji Xiaoya interrupted her explanation mercilessly. Have you ever thought about the relationship between our clients and our artists? Such a hint was already very obvious. Yi Huanyan frowned. You mean to let them? The company's clients were all rich businessmen. Among them, there was no lack of rich second and third generations who held shares in their families. These people like to go to places with beautiful women the most. For example, nightclubs were always full of different levels of quality. However, it was different for artists' gatherings. To be able to survive in this industry, looks were the most important thing. From the perspective of female artists, they naturally hoped to marry into a rich family. No matter how good they were in the entertainment industry, and how successful their careers were, it was naturally not as good as marrying into a good family. She had actually thought about this before, but she only thought that it would be easier to persuade the clients. She didn't think of hinting that the artists would have clients. I understand. Thank you, Xiaoyu. She lifted the blanket and looked like she was in a hurry to leave. Hey, I've already told you the idea. Where do you want to go? I have to confirm the list of people and book the tickets tomorrow night. I don't have time. Damn you, sit down. Ji Xiaoya was furious. Did I say that I wouldn't help you? Yi Huanyan was stunned by her roar. I haven't resigned yet. I'll help you with these things. I promise that the list will be finalized by tomorrow night. I'll also book the flight tickets, hotel, and rental of the amusement park over there for you, okay? Xiaoyu, you don't have to thank me. Seeing that Ling Han recommended me to Feng Shang, this is the last thing I can do for him before I leave. Once this is over, Yin Yen, take care of yourself. Ji Xiaoya's expression was a little gloomy, and her tone was much more serious than usual. Yi Huanyan also realized that she was really angry. For a moment he didn't know what to do. Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoya felt terrible in her heart. She thought about how they had spent so many years together. She didn't know how long these days would last. Suddenly, she had to pack up and leave. Thinking of this, she couldn't control her tears. You rest. Drink the fish soup. I'm going out for a walk. Looking at Ji Xiaoya's back, Yi Huanyan gripped the bedsheets and choked up. She knew why Ji Xiaoya was sad and angry. The position of Huan Yu's CEO's secretary was not suitable for her. Even though she laughed every day and said that she was an idle person who was flaunting her high salary in the company, she knew better than anyone that that idle job was actually a form of oppression for Ji Xiaoya. People had to show their value in life. The position that Ling Han gave to Ji Xiaoya didn't show her any value other than letting her eat, drink, and play. She was not happy, so when the pie of Feng Shang fell on her head, she accepted it without hesitation. She really hoped that she would leave with her and leave that depressing secretarial office. It sounded like a good future, but Yi Huanyan couldn't accept it. Last night, she had a dream. In the dream, she asked Jiang Milin why she did such a thing. She interfered in someone else's marriage. She even didn't hesitate to go against a terminally ill woman. She even dared to hire a murderer, something that she didn't even dare to think about. In the dream, Jiang Milin's figure was a little blurry, but her voice was very clear. Yin Yen, I don't want you to suffer. You don't deserve to live like that. She had heard Jiang Milin say such words many times. After waking up, she sat by the bed and thought for a long time. Thinking back to the number of times she had heard these words, she didn't realize that she had heard these words many times. When Jiang Milin spent money to let her go to the best high school in Lonjiang City, when she first met Lu Shen in high school, when Jiang Milan took her to eat the expensive but delicious Western food next to the school for the first time, when Lu Shen's mother humiliated Jiang Milan when she saw her, and when Lu Shen went abroad. That evening the plane flew over Lanjiang City. After she skipped class, she hugged her broken piggy bank and lay on the bed crying until she lost consciousness. Jiang Milan received a call from the school and rushed home. She knocked open the door and hugged her in her arms with a guilty look on her face. Yin Yin, I won't let you suffer in the future. I'll give you the life you deserve. Don't cry. Although she never understood what the life she deserved was, Jiang Milan used practical actions to tell her what kind of life she deserved. There were people to send her to and from school. She lived in a 3-story villa and had 4 nannies around her. She didn't even have to wear her own clothes. Regardless of her grades, her family had ways to let her go to the school she liked. When she was in university, she never had to worry about her bank balance being insufficient. These were the lives that Jiang Milan brought to her in the next few years. Therefore, she couldn't say that Jiang Milan had nothing to do with her. If it wasn't for those words, if it wasn't for a better life, if it wasn't for her, she believed that Jiang Milan wouldn't do that. Therefore, she had let down Ling Han's mother and Ling Han. Therefore, even if she had to leave pleasure, she had to leave with dignity. At the very least, she would help him get what he wanted. It could be considered as repaying her mother's debt. Then, she would leave on her own without anyone's recommendation letter. During this period, no matter how Ling Han humiliated her, she was willing to accept it. Everyone has something that they have to bear. After you accept it, you won't feel so uncomfortable. She comforted herself and repeated it in her heart over and over again. However, when Ji Xiaoye returned from outside, her eyes were red and she still felt extremely wronged. She leaned into Ji Xiaoye's arms and cried loudly just like that evening 10 years ago. Chapter 97. Yi Huanyan rested in the hospital for 3 days. During these 3 days, Ji Xiaoye used the professional skills that she had accumulated over the past 3 years to deal with the matters that the entire planning department was helpless against. 3 days later, she printed out the flight information in a document, planned out the list of each artist's entourage, and booked the hotel. Then, she handed it all to Yi Huanyan. Yi Huanyan took the document, which was the first time she had enjoyed other people's work since she started working, and walked into Ling Han's office with her head held high. President Ling, these are the documents from several departments today. I need you to take a look at them. Okay, put them there. Ling Han did not look up. His tone was a little indifferent. Since you're going to leave these things to the newcomers. Otherwise, the newcomers won't be able to familiarize themselves with the business as soon as possible. I'm going to suspect that you have ulterior motives. Yi Huanyan did not refute. She just looked at him indifferently. President Ling is right. Oh right, this is the approval for the project budget for this trip. The amount exceeds the department manager's approval authority, so it needs your signature. Okay. Ling Han frowned. The company's trip plan? You're done? Yes. Yi Huanyan smiled slightly. Ling Han's face flashed a strange look. When he signed, he sneered. No one can say for sure whether the clients and artists will all be there. Yi Huanyan's expression froze. She said indifferently. As long as President Ling doesn't interfere, I don't think anything unexpected will happen. Anyway, you don't plan to stay at pleasure. Why do you have to be so pretentious? You have to finish what you started. This is what Uncle Ling taught me. At the mention of Ling Dongming, Ling Han's face darkened. He emitted a gloomy aura. The document in his hand was thrown directly in Yi Huanyan's direction. It hit the ground with a harsh sound. You're done signing. Take it away. Thank you, President Ling. Yi Huanyan's back was tall and straight, with a hint of stubbornness. Ling Han gradually frowned. After experiencing such a night, this woman still dared to appear in front of him and spout nonsense. She was really reckless. Walking out of Ling Han's office, Yi Huanyan inexplicably heaved a sigh of relief. Everything was laid out in front of her. Although it was shocking and cruel, it was better than being humiliated without knowing anything. Ji Xiaoya stood at the entrance of the secretary's office. She held her suitcase in her hands and forced a smile. Have you packed everything? Yes. It's rare for so many people to go on a trip in the company. Why don't you stay and go on a trip at the end of the month? I don't think so. I don't dare to take money in this position. If I take advantage of this opportunity to go out and have fun, I'm afraid my reputation in the industry will be in a mess when I come back. You care about the reviews too. Of course I care. I'm going to be a member of Fengshang in the future. Come and see me when you have time. At this point, Yi Huanyan couldn't help but feel a trace of sadness in her heart. Why do you make it sound like you're going to part forever? Hearing this, Ji Xiaoya sniffled and choked with sobs. I'm afraid that if I leave here, you'll be tortured to death by someone. Yi Huanyan's nose twitched, and her eyes turned red. Xiaoyu. Okay. I won't talk to you anymore. I have to report to Fengshang in the afternoon. I haven't gone through the procedures with the HR department. I'm leaving. After saying this, Ji Xiaoya turned her head and hid her tears in a place where Yi Huanyan couldn't see. They fell into the suitcase in her hands, and she walked toward the elevator. Standing at the entrance of the secretary's office, Yi Huanyan looked at the back of her best friend. For a moment she was absent-minded. Fengshang was famous for being busy. They didn't even have time to rest on weekends. In the future, they would definitely have fewer chances to see each other. She didn't know if the people there would bully her. After all, this girl's taste in clothes wasn't that good. Her phone suddenly rang with the sound of an incoming message. She came back to her senses and took out her phone from her pocket. Yin Yan, take care of your body. Remember to eat. Since you've decided to stay, you must remember that your body is your capital. Although I really don't like a bastard like Ling Han who doesn't mean what he says, I also believe that he has feelings for you. So, you have to work hard. Oh right, he was the one who asked me to send the chicken soup to the hospital. I hope this news can give you some comfort. Ji Xiaoya had thought about this message for a long time before sending it. In fact, according to her selfish desires, she couldn't wait for Yi Huanyan to realize that Ling Han was an inhumane person in an instant. Then, she would immediately leave this sad place of pleasure. But from Yi Huanyan's perspective, she thought about it for a long time. Loving someone was just that unreasonable. Even if you were good or bad, beautiful or ugly, the only thing she wanted in her heart was for the person she loved to love her back. During this period of time without her company, perhaps the only thing she could rely on was Ling Han's insignificant and pitiful care for her. He was her only pillar of support. When she walked out of pleasure, Ji Xiaoya took out her phone and glanced at it. Thank you, Xiaoyu. I don't think I'll give up. When I do, I'll leave without you persuading me. Looking at this message, Ji Xiaoya sighed helplessly. Then she looked up at the sky. She sincerely hoped that one day, her best friend would be able to walk out of the cage in her heart. A week later, it was Pleasure Group's employee benefits and customer feedback holiday. The day before departure, Yi Huanyan brought the company's employee list to the president's office for signature. Then, she handed it over to the finance department for reimbursement. When it was time for signature, Ling Han flipped to the section about the president's assistant team. But it was blank. Xiaomu was busy with her company in Shanghai and did not have time to participate. Ji Xiaoya had just left, and Yi Huanyan, who was supposed to appear on the list, was not there either. The new secretary had not officially taken office yet. As for the other two male assistants in charge of assistant affairs, they were busy with their own things. Where are the people in the assistant team? He asked. Assistant Xiao can't come. Secretary Ji just left, and the new person hasn't been hired yet. Assistant Xiao's two assistants also have work to do, so they can't go. What about you? Do you have something to do? Ling Han's gaze was a bit cold. Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. I'm not feeling well, so I won't go. Before she finished speaking, she saw that Ling Han's expression was not very good, so she quickly explained. I heard that Sheng Anren is accompanying you. Miss Sheng should be able to take care of your affairs, so I don't think I need to go. I'm going out to play. I don't think President Ling wants to see me. Go out to play. Ling Han sneered. What about the client's contract renewal? I seem to have said that your work is included in the travel plan this time. You're not going out to play. Yi Huanyan's face froze. She had a sliver of hope that he would forget about what he had said before. But she did not expect that she had underestimated his memory and his desire for revenge against her. There were 2 clients in the travel plan. They were the 2 big clients that she needed to negotiate with after taking over Qiaomu's job. She did not want to refuse, but Sheng Anren was also going on this trip. Yi Huanyan felt that she did not have the ability to calmly face Ling Han and Sheng Anren's flirting in front of everyone. I think I can talk to the clients after the trip is over. Perhaps the trip will go smoothly, and the clients will be in a good mood. I can't wait. Ling Han rudely interrupted her. You have to go. Chapter 98. Ling Han's words of "you have to go" destined Yi Huanyan's trip to be extraordinary. Fortunately, Ling Han and Sheng Anren's plane was full. At least they didn't have to look at their faces on the road, which Yi Huanyan felt very gratified. After confirming the flight information again before getting off work, she breathed a sigh of relief, turned off the lights, closed the door and clocked out. The lights in Ling Han's office were still on. She didn't want to ask for trouble, so she tiptoed away. After she left, the sound of a phone call rang in Ling Han's office. Confirm Yi Huanyan's flight information. Just change with any artist. After work, Yi Huanyan didn't return to the villa in Jinjiang Court. Ever since that night in Jinjianjiwen, Yi Huanyan had dispelled the idea of moving back to live with him. The day before, she came out of the hospital and went straight to Ling Dongming and Jiang Milan's house in Dongqing district. It was said that Ling Dongming bought that house when he married Wen Qingwan. Later, Jiang Milan and Yi Huanyan moved in. In her memory, Jiang Milan mentioned several times that she wanted to change houses, but Ling Dongming refused on the grounds that he was used to living here. Although there were a lot of properties under her name, Jiang Milan couldn't leave her husband and live in another house alone. In the end, she had no choice but to live here. Now that she stepped into the house again, Yi Huanyan felt a little cold all over. After Ling Dongming and Jiang Milan passed away, the house was empty. The aunties who helped cook and clean here were all dismissed, leaving an empty house and a house full of old things that were covered up. After returning from work, Yi Huanyan was a little tired. She turned on the lights in the whole house, then sat on the sofa in the living room wrapped in a blanket. However, when she closed her eyes, her mind was full of nightmares. She woke up many times that night. She always felt that there seemed to be a figure in the corner of the house. Just like that, the night passed in a muddle-headed manner. The next day was clear, destined to be good weather for a trip. Early in the morning, Yi Huanyan was woken up by the sound of the whistle at the door. The person who came was Ling Han's new assistant Xiaodong. He stood at the door in a suit. When Yi Huanyan saw Xiaodong from the surveillance camera at the door, her expression froze. She hesitated for a moment before opening the door. Secretary Yi, President Ling asked me to take you to the airport. Come in and have a seat first. I still have some things to pack. Wait for me for a while. No need, I'll wait at the door. Xiaodong looked a little uneasy. It's fine. Sit anywhere you like. There's no one else in the house. Yi Huanyan smiled faintly and turned around to grab a pair of slippers at the entrance, looking very courteous. Xiaodong couldn't refuse. He changed into slippers and sat down on the sofa in the living room. Secretary Yi, your house is so big. Although he could tell that Yi Huanyan's family background was extraordinary from her usual clothes and accessories, this was the first time he saw such a beautiful villa. The retro European-style decoration and the color of the furniture were a little dull, but there was a feeling of a long history. It was very classical and elegant. It's okay. I'm usually the only one at home, so there's nothing good about it. Yi Huanyan poured a cup of tea and placed it on the coffee table. I only have plain water here. Do you mind? Thank you. Xiaodong quickly got up and thanked her. You're welcome. I'll go and pack first. Sit for a while. If you're bored, you can walk around. Yi Huanyan was not worried that the new assistant would find anything. This place was remote, and no one in the company knew that this was where Ling Dongming lived. After Ling Dongming and Jiang Milan passed away, this place was cleaned up, Most of the things that belonged to them were sealed in the attic on the third floor. This house was originally going to be sold, but Ling Han didn't sell it. It was probably because he knew about his mother. Xiaodong was a polite and reserved person. Although Yi Huanyan said that he could walk around, he still didn't move. He just sat quietly on the sofa in the living room. This was what he had been taught since he was young. When he went to other people's houses, he shouldn't casually look at other people's things. Yi Huanyan quickly packed up and came out. She wore a simple white sweater, blue jeans and white sneakers under a gray-blue coat. She looked very fresh. Because the company's group trip was set to be in Bali, the weather there was hot, unlike Lanjiang City, which had entered an extremely cold winter. She put the clothes she would change into on the plane in her bag. Although Dongqing district was located in a remote area, it was very close to Lanjiang Airport. It was only a 15-minute drive. After Xiaodong helped to carry the suitcase, he was in a hurry to rush back to the company. She was the only one left. She took a deep breath and pulled the suitcase to the check-in counter to exchange for a boarding pass. You're flying to Bali. Do you check your luggage? Yes, please give me a seat by the window. Okay. After getting the boarding pass, she glanced at the time, and her expression froze. Isn't the flight at 10:30? Why is it 10 o'clock now? The ticket information was correct. She had to carry her bag and rush to the boarding gate. Fortunately, she made it in time. Messier 84. After sitting in her seat, she looked at the information on the boarding pass and frowned. Was it this flight? Why did it feel different from the one she saw last night? Just as she was thinking, she heard a playful voice behind her. It sounded familiar. Her face froze. She slowly turned around and saw 3 people in a row behind her. They were clearly third-rate artists under pleasure. She had been looking for a seat with her head down and didn't notice them at all. Secretary Yi? An artist in the back seat recognized Yi Huanyan with a sharp eye. His face was full of surprise. You're on the same flight as us? Yi Huanyan nodded embarrassedly. She turned around and took out her mobile phone to call the colleague who had helped her book the ticket yesterday. The artist who spoke was called Rui Shui. She could only be regarded as a third-rate artist in the company. She was young and had just signed the contract the year before last. She had met Yi Huanyan a few times. As for the 2 beside her, they could only be regarded as invisible people. They only played some small supporting roles in TV shows and movies. If they didn't have a chance to become popular, their contracts would not be renewed when they expired. The company never wasted resources on these invisible people. They could only rely on themselves to find ways, such as connecting with some financial backers, or getting along better with the first and second sisters in the company. Can I trouble you to take your bag? A cold voice sounded beside her, interrupting Yi Huanyan's action of making a phone call. She was slightly stunned. Following the sound, she looked up and saw a deep 3-dimensional face full of exotic charm. It was Guan Nai. Guan Nai was the female star in the company, second only to Sheng Inren. She had the passionate face of a minority ethnic group, but she put on a cold look every day. It was also because of this frosty style that in the hearts of her fans, she had the title of Cold Beauty. This was not the persona the company gave her. She was a very maverick person. It was said that her family was very rich. She came to the entertainment circle just for fun. When she signed Pleasure, it was when Ling Dongming was there. As for her specific situation, probably not many people knew about it except for her agent. At this moment, this Cold Beauty was looking at her coldly. Chapter 99. I said take your bag. Guan Nai's voice was very cold. Compared to those sweet female stars, it was a little colder. Yi Huanyan froze and hurriedly took the bag that she had just put next to her. Sorry, I didn't know this was your seat. Her apology didn't get any response from Guan Nai. The famous Cold Beauty took out an eye mask from her small bag and ignored Yi Huanyan after she sat down. She was embarrassed. The broadcast was playing a reminder that the phone was turned off. She looked at the phone in her hand that she hadn't made yet and turned it off helplessly. Looking around, most of the people sitting in the cabin were familiar faces. Although Yi Huanyan didn't watch TV or movies, it was hard not to remember the faces of the female stars on the bus billboards. Ling Han and Sheng Anren were also among them. Yi Huanyan saw Ling Han sitting 3 rows in front of her at a glance. Sheng Anren was leaning against the window and was acting coquettishly to Ling Han about where to go after arriving in Bali. She frowned and took out a soundproof earpiece from her bag to isolate the outside world. Since she was here, she might as well make the best of it. When she was in a daze, the song in the earpiece ended, and there was no sound. She vaguely heard the whispers of the female artists behind her. Hey, who is this secretary Yi? Why is she on the same flight as us? She is President Ling's personal secretary. She should be taking care of President Ling's daily life. Rui Shui explained. Among these small artists, she was the only one who knew something about the head office. Taking care of his daily life? Isn't there Sister Anren? Could it be? Who knows? These are all company matters. Sister Anren is much prettier than her. Look at her face without makeup. I'm afraid President Ling won't like her. Most of these artists were not well educated, and their words were not logical. Although she knew that they were just looking for a topic to chat about, Yi Huanyan still felt her stomach churn. She took off the eye mask and covered her mouth to endure. A slender wrist caught her eye, and a bottle of mineral water was handed to her. She looked up and saw Guan Nai's cold face. Her eyes were as deep as 2 pools of spring water. She said faintly, "Can you lend me the earphones for a while? It's too noisy." The scattered voices behind him abruptly stopped. Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds. The bottle of mineral water was already in her hands, and the earphones were already removed from her head. Seeing the woman beside him slowly put on the blindfold again, then put on the headphones and continued to sleep calmly, Yi Huanyan felt an inexplicable sense of security. Guan Nai was a mysterious woman with an especially unpredictable personality. Even though Yi Huanyan couldn't tell if her actions were to help her out and interrupt the whispers behind her, or if she just wanted to borrow a pair of earphones because she was annoyed by the noise, Yi Huanyan still let out a sigh of relief. She even smiled at the 3 people behind her when she got up to go to the bathroom. From the faces of the 3 people, it could be seen why they were lukewarm. Their acting skills were so bad that the word awkward was written on their faces. She would pass by Ling Han and Sheng Anren on her way to the bathroom, but she was in a hurry. She guessed that Ling Han probably didn't notice her. She washed her face in the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She went out in a hurry in the morning and didn't put on makeup. In addition, she didn't sleep well last night. The 2 dark circles under her eyes were particularly obvious. The 3 people were right. How could she compare to Sheng Anren, who was always radiant? There was a knock on the door. She had been waiting inside for too long, and someone outside was anxious. After taking a deep breath, she pressed the flush button of the toilet, then pulled the safety latch and looked at the person at the door apologetically. "Sorry, I'm not very." Looking into the person's eyes, the words that she had yet to finish were stuck in her throat. "President Ling." "What's the matter?" he asked. Just now when she passed by, Sheng Anren suddenly said, "Isn't that Secretary Yi? You don't look well. What's the matter?" These words reminded him of her hospitalization during this period of time. After returning to the company, she had been busy with the group trip plan. Yesterday, she told him that she was not feeling well and did not want to participate in this trip. His heart suddenly tightened. He left Sheng Anren and followed her to the bathroom. He did not notice the sudden change of Sheng Anren's face behind him. "What's the matter?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. "You don't look well. Are you not feeling well?" Ling Han's inexplicable concern made her have an illusion that she shouldn't have. She touched her face and avoided his eyes. "It's nothing. I just didn't sleep well last night." "Thank you for your concern." Ling Han was a little displeased with Yi Huanyan's cold tone and asked coldly, "How are you living there these 2 days?" "It's very good." Yi Huanyan looked over Ling Han's shoulder and looked at the curtain of the cabin. Through the gap, she seemed to see Sheng Anren walking towards her. Her heart sank. "President Ling, if there's nothing else, I'll go first." She was so busy looking at Sheng Anren that she didn't notice that Ling Han's face was gloomy to the extreme. When she was about to walk away from him, he suddenly grabbed her shoulder and pushed her into the narrow bathroom. With a click, he locked the bathroom door from the inside. Yi Huanyan stared at him. What are you doing? Look into my eyes when you talk to me. The cold tone froze the narrow bathroom, and there was a faint anger in his eyes. Yi Huanyan didn't know why he was angry. She thought that she hadn't done anything to make him angry since last night. What did I do wrong? Tell me clearly. Her eyes were red, and she gritted her teeth with a stubborn look. She was a person who wanted to die clearly. However, she did not know that Ling Han had been angered by her submissive attitude these past few days. Whether it was asking her to make a few cups of coffee at work, being picky about the temperature and sweetness of the coffee, or making her work late into the night, she seemed to have no temper, and was at his disposal. What made Ling Han feel most uncomfortable was that after returning home from work every day, the house was suddenly cold and cheerless. It was just one less person. When Yi Huanyan was here, she didn't talk much. There should be no difference between her and not her. But he began to lose sleep again. After arriving in Bali, by the earliest flight back home, I hope I'll never see you again when I go back on vacation. Ling Han tried his best to make his voice sound calm, but the fingers that were holding her shoulders were trembling. You want me to quit? I've completed the travel plan. I won't leave. Yi Huanyan frowned and looked stubborn. Yi Huanyan, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Chapter 100. Didn't you say that I owe you? I'll stay. How much do I owe you? I'll leave after I pay it all. You don't pay it all. How do you know if you don't try? Yi Huanyan bit her lip, almost bleeding. There was a knock on the door. Han, are you in there? It was Sheng Amren's voice. Yi Huanyan stared at Ling Han with wide eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a sarcastic expression. He leaned over to Yi Huanyan's ear and exhaled softly. Do you want to try? Her back slammed into the mirror of the washstand, and she felt a sudden chill under her long skirt. Not long after, her clothes were scattered, and the brown-plaid long skirt was violently lifted up to her lower abdomen by a pair of hands. Her snow-white slender leg was lifted high by a big hand, and his knee separated her other leg hanging by the sink. It was a very shameful position, and without any warning, he fiercely entered. She groaned and bit the back of her hand. In pain, she turned her head with difficulty and pressed the side of her face against the mirror, trying to feel the coldness of the mirror, trying to keep herself awake. Ling Han's eyes were red. He held her legs and stared into her eyes. His eyes seemed to be full of the pleasure of revenge. The sarcasm at the corner of his mouth seemed to be ridiculing her for walking into a trap and abandoning herself. The sound of Sheng Amren knocking on the door seemed to have a rhythm. It mixed with the impact in the bathroom and severely ravaged her nerves. She covered her mouth with one hand and endured wave after wave of crazy impact under her body. She didn't know how long Sheng Amren knocked, but finally gave up. The sound of high heels at the door gradually faded away, probably to the other side of the cabin. Yi Huanyan put down her hand and couldn't help but let out a painful groan. Ling Han stared into her eyes and increased the frequency. A strange look flashed across his face. After the final thrust, Ling Han withdrew from her body. A scorching heat quickly spread from the lower half of her body to the rest of her body. Her toes and fingers curled together at the same time, and a hoarse sound came from her throat. Her whole body twitched for a few seconds before she sat paralyzed on the washstand with a flushed face. The man loosened his grip on her shoulders, and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. His breathing was heavy, and it was obvious in the small bathroom. He lowered his voice and whispered into Yi Huanyan's ear. Don't you want to repay your debt? I'll satisfy you. At this time, the flush on Yi Huanyan's face had receded and was replaced by a sheet of white. Cold sweat trickled down from her forehead. Her lips had been bitten and were bleeding, but her eyes were filled with shame and anger. Ling Han let go of her body, leaned against the door, lit a cigarette and sneered. Consider this my last gift to you. Consider it a warning. Leave as soon as the plane lands. This is your last chance. He sized up Yi Huanyan's body and his eyes were cold. You want to repay your debt? What else do you think you have other than this body that I'm tired of playing with? Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and struggled to get off the washstand. Her legs trembled, and she barely managed to steady herself by holding onto the washstand. She took a deep breath and tried to make her voice sound calm. Have you enjoyed yourself, President Ling? Hearing that, Ling Han's eyes flashed with astonishment. If you don't say anything, I'll take it that you've enjoyed yourself. She lifted her underwear from her ankles. Although she was in a mess, she moved slowly. Then, with her back facing Ling Han, she turned to the mirror and tidied her clothes meticulously. Ling Han's face stiffened. He put out the cigarette and slammed the door without looking back. I've given you a chance, but you don't want it. Don't regret it in the future. When I let you go, you should go. After Ling Han left, Yi Huanyan put her hands on the washstand and her tears fell into the sink. Physical pain, mental torture, self-esteem trampling, I'll give you all these. I'll give you everything you want. Is that enough? When Yi Huanyan returned to her seat, her face was as calm as usual. After half a year of being Ling Han's secret lover, she had already familiarized herself with the two roles. In front of everyone, she would always be Secretary Yi, and would not have anything to do with Ling Han's private life. When she sat down, she felt the pain in her lower body, and took a deep breath. Guan Nai, who had just taken off her eye mask and touched up her makeup, frowned slightly. She took in her expression, and put the earphones beside her. I'll return the earphones to you. Thank you. Yi Huanyan nodded weakly. She leaned against the seat, and closed her eyes drowsily. Guan Nai finished her eyeliner in front of the makeup mirror. She turned her head and glanced at Yi Huanyan, who was holding her arms and trembling. She frowned slightly, and turned to call the stewardess. Can I trouble you to bring another blanket over? Okay. When Sheng Amren came out of the front cabin, she saw that Ling Han had returned to his seat. So did Yi Huanyan. The bathroom door that was closed just now was open, and there were several water stains on the washstand. She returned to her seat and hesitated for a moment. Han, where did you go just now? I couldn't find you. Bathroom. He answered casually. Sheng Amren pursed her lips. I knocked on the bathroom door, but no one seemed to respond. You. Maybe he didn't hear it. Ling Han seemed a little impatient and closed his eyes. She frowned and slowly turned around. Her eyes fell on the weak figure behind the third row, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. It turned out that the little goblin she had been looking for so long was hiding beside Ling Han. Secretary Yu was really hiding. She dared to snatch people from Sheng Amren, but she would not have a good end. Guan Nai, who was sitting beside Yi Huanyan, just put away the makeup mirror. She followed Sheng Amren's gaze and glanced at Yi Huanyan. There was a trace of hesitation in her eyes. The direct flight from Lonjiang City to Bali took 8 hours. They set off in the morning, and had lunch in the restaurant on the plane. Yi Huanyan was not feeling well, and had been sleeping. She was not in the mood to eat at all. In the restaurant, the space was spacious. There were 4 people at a table. Ling Han was not in the mood. He left from the dining car after eating 2 mouthfuls. Sheng Amren hesitated for a while, and did not catch up with him, and ran. Haven't you always been wherever President Ling is? President Ling has already gone back, and you're busy losing weight and not eating. Why are you sitting here with us? Sitting with Sheng Amren were several artists with higher positions in the company. They usually made fun of each other. At the moment, it was very ironic in Sheng Amren's ears. Her eyes were a little unfocused. Suddenly, she picked up the juice in her hand, left the table without looking back, and walked toward the corner. Sitting in the corner were the 3 artists who had been sitting behind Yi Huanyan. At the moment, they were discussing the vacation in Bali in full swing. Is this seat taken? Sister Anren? Several people were surprised to see Sheng Amren coming over. No one, please sit down. Sheng Amren had always been high and mighty in the company. Generally, she did not easily have contact with third-tier artists like them. Or did the wind blow her here? Chapter 101. I don't have anything to do. Director Lee came to me for a movie before. There are several roles in it that haven't been decided yet. He asked me if I had any suitable candidates to recommend. I think the fat water doesn't flow into the field of outsiders. It must be someone from the recommendation company. I don't usually see you. Today when I saw you on the plane, I think you are very suitable. Sheng Imran's tone was very kind. which was completely different from the descriptions circulating among the company's artists. Rui Shue's eyes widened. You mean Li Quan director Li's movie? Well, I know that I suddenly told you this. Maybe I have to pick a time. You can think about it, and then reply to me. No, we have time. That's right. How many people want to be in director Li's movie? Such a good opportunity, Sister Inran. Why do you take care of us so much? Thank you so much. The three people at the table looked at Sheng Inran with almost grateful eyes. If this movie can really let us play God, it's incredible. Sheng Inran smiled slightly. It's nothing. It's just a little effort. If Director Li likes you, there will be many film contracts in the future. Among the three people, Rui Shui had more experience in filming. In addition to being surprised, she faintly felt that such a thing as a pie falling from the sky was unlikely to happen to her. She asked a little hesitantly, Sister Inran, how did you think of recommending us to Director Li's movie? After all, there were many female artists in the same studio as Sheng Inran. For the sake of long-term interests, it was natural for her to support her younger generation. How could such a good opportunity be given to three unknown little transparent people? After all, we are all in the same company. If the company develops well, President Ling will naturally be happy. This is also my duty. When it came to President Ling, the three people looked at each other and smiled at the same time. Rui Shui was also a little relieved. Zhao Bingqing, who was sitting beside Sheng Inran, smiled flatteringly. That's natural. We all know your relationship with President Ling. Sooner or later, you will be the boss of the company. Yes, that's a position that many people dream of. Lin Jia, who was beside Rui Shui, echoed. She had never been very good at looking at people's faces, and what she said was always inappropriate. Ahem. Rui Shui coughed twice, reminding her to shut up. Wasn't it obvious that he was coveting the boss in front of Sheng Anran? Was he looking for death? She didn't know if Sheng Anran heard it, but her expression changed slightly and she smiled. It's not easy to be the lady boss. There are so many young and beautiful girls watching. If you don't pay attention, your position will be taken by others. Rui Shui thought that Lin Jia had understood the meaning behind Lin Jia's words. She was afraid that if Lin Jia was unhappy, the meat pie that had fallen with great difficulty would fly away from her mouth. Speaking of youth and beauty, who can compare to you by President Ling's side? Don't worry too much. The two people beside him quickly followed suit. Sheng Anran looked at them meaningfully, and a contemptuous smile flashed in his eyes. Sometimes the more inconspicuous a person is, the more he has big ideas and ambitions. I didn't see it before. The three of them looked at each other, not understanding the meaning of Sheng Anran's words. I just saw Secretary Yi on the same plane as us. It's really strange. I heard that she was supposed to take over Assistant Xiao's job and stay in the company. Sheng Anran casually stretched out her hand and looked at her newly done nails. Men are usually animals who think with their lower bodies. Who will refuse someone who throws himself at them? It's just that some people don't know themselves. What do you think? Rui Shui's face changed slightly, and she exchanged a look with Lin Jia beside her. Sister Anran, you mean Secretary Yi? Sheng Anran sneered. I can't rub sand in my eyes. If anyone has any improper thoughts about my things, I will do whatever it takes to make her understand what regret is. Lin Jia was timid. She pulled Rui Shui's sleeve under the table with a panicked look. Zhao Bingqing rolled his eyes and glanced at Rui Shui. Sister Anran, we don't have much interaction with Secretary Yi. In fact, we just met on the plane. Only Xiaoxue seems to have seen Secretary Yi before. Oh! Sheng Anran raised his head and looked at Rui Shui. Do you know each other? Rui Shui's face stiffened, and she glared at Zhao Bingqing fiercely. She thought about it for a while and said embarrassedly, I don't know her. In fact, I don't like Secretary Yi's noble appearance. She's just a secretary. She acts like she's a daughter of a big family. That's right. Looking at Sheng Anran's satisfied look, Rui Shui suddenly had an idea and hesitated. Sister Anran, in fact, you don't need to do this kind of thing. If we do it a little, I'm afraid her trip to Bali will not be easy. Isn't that bad? Sheng Anran looked indifferent, but there was some satisfaction in his tone. Rui Shui raised her eyebrows and flattered. It has nothing to do with Sister Anran. We don't like Secretary Ye's style. We teach her a lesson, and teach her to be a good person at work. Then, I'll contact Director Lee when I get off the plane, and ask him how many roles he needs. Hearing this, the three looked at each other. If they still couldn't figure out the purpose of Shung Anran's visit, they had been in the entertainment industry for so long in vain. Killing with a borrowed knife, Shung Anran really lived up to her reputation. She smiled slightly, stood up, lifted the corner of her skirt, and left the restaurant. The three people looked at each other, each with ulterior motives. What are you thinking? Lin Jie frowned and looked timid. Shung Anran is going to use us as guns. It was Zhao Bingqing who spoke. She seemed a little unhappy and glanced at Rui Shui. Xiaoxue, you dare to promise her? Rui Shui frowned and said in an unkind tone. Zhao Bingqing, shut up. If you didn't say that I knew Secretary Yi, would I be targeted by her? You almost got me killed. I didn't do it on purpose. Zhao Bingqing was a little guilty. It was undeniable that she did it on purpose. In fact, she had seen that Shung Anran was not kind. If they wanted to mix in, they could only rely on their support. If they didn't run errands to help, why would they support them? Now that things have come to this, don't you want to play Director Lee's film? It's just a little trick to let the secretary suffer a little. Shung Anran just wanted to give her a warning and let her stay away from President Ling. She didn't know herself and dared to have thoughts about President Ling. What do you want to do? Seeing Zhao Bingqing take out a transparent eye drop bottle from her bag, Rui Shui and Lin Jie were slightly stunned. You want to? A trace of insidiousness flashed in Zhao Bingqing's eyes. Sister Anran just said that the quota is limited. Sisters, let's rely on our own ability. Chapter 102. Yi Huanyan fell asleep in her seat. When she woke up, most of the people who had gone to eat in the cabin had returned. Guan Nai, who was beside her, had changed into a refreshing white dress and was lying down with her eyes closed. She raised her wrist and looked at the time. There were still 4 hours before the plane landed. Thinking that there were still many things to do after the plane landed, she had to get up and go to the restaurant to find something to eat. There was no one in the restaurant, so it was quiet. The stewardess brought the food. She ate slowly alone and looked at the scenery outside the window. Above the clouds, large clouds of white cotton wool floated past, and the ground could not be seen. Secretary Yi. A sweet female voice sounded beside her. Yi Huanyan turned around and was a little stunned. My name is Zhao Bingqing. I'm friends with Xiao Shui. I'm sitting behind you. Yes, I remember you. Yi Huanyan forced a smile. Zhao Bingqing's smile was very sweet, and there was a small dimple at the corner of her mouth. She looked innocent. She pushed a glass of water in front of Yi Huanyan and waved the same glass in her hand and explained. I see that you don't look too good. Is it your period? I also got it in the past 2 days. This is the brown sugar water I just asked for from the stewardess. I also asked for a glass for you. Drink it while it's hot. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned and nuanuan in her heart. Thank you. Although she was not on her period, being cared for by a stranger always made people feel that there was a trace of warmth in the world. Then you eat slowly. I'll go back first. Returning to her seat, Zhao Bingqing did not hide the pride in her eyes. Beside her, Rui Shui frowned and looked at her. Did you really put that thing down? Don't worry, it's just 2 drops. It's not a big deal. At least it can ensure that during the few hours on the plane, she won't have the strength to harass President Ling. In the corner, Lin Jie's eyes were a little hesitant. Biqing, why do you carry that medicine with you? Zhao Bingqing's face stiffened, and she was speechless for a moment. Rui Shui tugged at Lin Jie's sleeve. Don't ask. How many female artists didn't bring it on the plane? I dare say that even Shung Anran has prepared one. In the company's so-called group outing event, the artists would go for the rich businessmen, and the rich businessmen would go for the beautiful women. After the event, what kind of sparks could be created would depend on each person's ability. Whether the methods used were dirty or despicable, the people in the industry never talked about it. The one who could ascend to the throne was the winner. Just as they were about to land, the plane jolted. Guan Nai woke up with a start from the jolting. When she woke up, she realized that there was no one beside her. She frowned and glanced in the direction of the dining room. Yi Huanyan had not returned yet. Passengers, please pay attention. Our plane is about to land. The air stewardess's gentle voice sounded from the announcer. All the artists in the cabin were taking out their bags, touching up their makeup, and tidying up their clothes. Guan Nai frowned and pulled a passing flight attendant. The lady beside me hasn't returned yet. Please go to the restaurant and see if she's still there. The flight attendant was slightly taken aback. All right, I'll go take a look. The plane soon landed, and the artists went out one by one from the cabin door. Their faces were glowing, and the colorful dresses formed a beautiful scenery at the airport exit. Ling Han turned his head and glanced in the direction of Yi Huanyan, but he didn't see her. He frowned and turned to look at the cabin door. Anren, have you seen Secretary Yi? A strange look flashed across Sheng Anren's face. He smiled slightly. No, maybe he left first. Secretary, Yi should be meeting up with the other staff to handle the matter of checking into the hotel for us. After the cabin was empty, the flight attendant checked one by one to see if the passengers had left anything behind. He saw a lady's bag in a window seat and was slightly stunned. He suddenly remembered that Guan Nai had asked him to pay attention to a person when he left. Thinking of this, he hurriedly picked up the bag and walked to the dining car. After the mealtime, the dining car was unguarded. At this time it was empty. The flight attendant breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly saw a slender arm on the carpet in the middle of the dining car. Yi Huanyan was woken up by a great pain in her philtrum. She shivered all over and opened her eyes suddenly. In front of her was the face of the flight attendant with a white face, with a panicked face. Miss, are you all right? Where am I? Yi Huanyan got up from the bed and looked around in surprise. The handsome flight attendant touched the sweat on his forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. The airport infirmary, you fainted in the dining car and were unconscious. It was our work mistake. Fortunately, the people in the infirmary said that you were all right. You were just too tired, so you really woke up after pinching your philtrum. Yi Huanyan covered her philtrum, which was painful from being pinched, and her face was pale. You mean the plane has landed? It landed half an hour ago. I haven't taken my luggage yet. Yi Huanyan's face stiffened. She lifted the blanket on her body and got out of bed. My companions are all gone. Miss Yi, don't worry. My colleagues have just helped you get your luggage. This is our mistake. I'm off work now, so I'll send you where you want to go later. The handsome flight attendant in front of her was the head flight attendant of the flight that Yi Huanyan was on. He was wearing a white uniform, and his 185 meters tall figure was very tall and straight. Probably because he had been working indoors for a long time. His skin was very white, and his whole person was sunny and elegant. When he looked at Yi Huanyan, he was full of guilt. Yi Huanyan slowly put down the hand that had been covering her mouth and asked a little embarrassedly, How did you know my surname is Yi? He hurriedly explained. It happened so suddenly. I looked up your information, so that it would be convenient for you to get your luggage from the baggage carousel. By the way, let me introduce myself. I'm Ling Han, the head flight attendant of this flight. I'm very sorry about this. Ling Han. Yi Huanyan widened her eyes and looked at him in surprise. Her reaction made Ling Han slightly stunned. Is there a problem? No, nothing. I have a friend also called Ling Han. A glimmer of light flashed in Ling Han's eyes. Really? What a coincidence. I'm 2 o'clock, Han as in Han Fizi. So is he. Yi Huanyan smiled slightly. You're 2 o'clock, he's left ear Ling, Han as in cold, just a little bit more. Your friend's hearing should be better than mine. Hearing this, Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds, and then laughed out loud. This joke is not funny at all. But you laughed. Ling Han's eyes showed a trace of slyness. Let's go, my colleagues should have gotten your luggage. Where are you going? I'll send you. Yi Huanyan pulled up the corners of her mouth and forced a smile. She was not surprised that those artists in the same flight had left her behind. After all, there were no friends of hers, and the so-called companions were just on the same flight. Miss Yi, please wait a moment. Just as she walked out of the door, Someone suddenly called her from behind. She turned around and saw two people in local police uniforms hurrying over. Their faces were serious, and they spoke in fluent English. "Missy, we suspect that you are carrying illegal drugs. Please come with us." Chapter 103. At the airport's police station, a group of people turned Yi Huanyan's suitcase upside down. Even her underwear was not spared. They checked very carefully, but Yi Huanyan's poor English was completely unable to understand what they were mumbling about. "Don't worry, they didn't find anything. They just heard from our captain that you fainted in the dining car, so they're a little worried." Ling Han comforted her. From the infirmary to the security station, the air steward had been with her, making her feel much more at ease. After the inspection, one of the police officers came over and mumbled something. Yi Huanyan looked at Ling Han blankly. What did he say? Ling Han gave her a comforting look, then exchanged a few words with the police officer in fluent English. He turned to look at Yi Huanyan and winked mischievously. "Okay, the matter is settled. Pack your suitcase, we can leave now." When they left the airport, it was already dark outside. "It's too late. Why don't I take you out for dinner first?" Yi Huanyan hurriedly waved her hand. "I'm already very embarrassed to trouble you to send me to the hotel, so it's better not to." Although she said that, her disappointing stomach suddenly let out a growl. The sound was particularly obvious at the entrance of the airport, where there were very few people. Beside her, there was a soft laugh. Yi Huanyan looked up awkwardly. She could see that Ling Han was trying hard to hold back his laughter, but he couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Yi Huanyan touched her embarrassed stomach and said embarrassedly, "This is a normal reaction." Ling Han stopped smiling and said seriously, "Let's eat together. The restaurant is not far from the airport, and it's the same road as the one that sent you back to the hotel." Since it was like this, Yi Huanyan couldn't refuse. 10 minutes later, Ling Han took her to a seafood stall. The environment in the restaurant was not elegant, but the owner and lady boss were very friendly. They spoke in a language that Yi Huanyan couldn't understand, but the smile on their faces was very infectious. "How do you feel?" Ling Han placed his order and turned around to look behind him. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips. "Do you want to hear the truth?" "Of course. It's actually very ordinary. It's not much different from the seafood stalls in China." Ling Han seemed to have expected her to say this. He turned to the stall owner and said something. Then he looked at Yi Huanyan and smiled. "Come with me." He led Yi Huanyan out of the back door of the food stall, and they were greeted by the pleasant sea breeze. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and her brown plaid skirt fluttered in the wind, as if she was dragging a long tail behind her. There was a bright moon in the distance, reflecting a sparkling light on the surface of the sea, dragging a long shadow. The waves beat against the reef. Looking at it from a high point on the beach that was not man-made, it was a magnificent sight. "Wow, this place is so beautiful." Her eyes lit up and she couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. "Our seat is over there." Ling Han pointed at the reef in the distance. The natural seascape barbecue was more peaceful than the bustling streets that were overcrowded after the opening of business. In addition, the taste of the seafood stall was indeed very unique. Their entire body and mind were released, and the gloominess of the day was swept away. "Do you come here often?" she asked excitedly. "Yes, I always fly here and there. I'm very familiar with this place. It's like a second home. Especially when I'm unhappy, I'll come here. When the sea breeze blows, everything will be forgotten." Looking at the silhouette of the woman standing on the reef with her arms wide open, Ling Han felt a strange feeling that he had never felt before. It wasn't that he had never met a woman before. In their line of work, they would meet all kinds of people, but this woman in front of him gave him a strange feeling. "Do you often bring girls here?" Her voice interrupted his thoughts. He was slightly stunned, and he smiled in her direction. "If I said that you were the first girl I brought here, would you believe me?" "Of course not." Her voice was mixed with the sound of the waves, and he could only tell what she was saying from the shape of her mouth. She tilted her head, put her hands behind her back, and smiled at him meaningfully. "A handsome and sweet man like you wouldn't come to such a remote food stall to eat alone, right?" Ling Han was slightly taken aback, and his gaze deepened as he looked at her. After a while, he shrugged and said helplessly, "Okay, I admit, this place was brought to me by a local girl. She was a very beautiful girl. Yes, very beautiful. She had a pair of eyes like sapphires. You two were together." "Yes, we were together." Ling Han's eyes suddenly dimmed. But then she passed away unexpectedly, just one day before the wedding. Yi Huanyan's expression changed, and her smile froze at the corner of her mouth. "I'm sorry." His smile was a little forced. "It's okay. After so many years, I've thought it through. Maybe it's because we weren't fated to be together. Her eyes are very similar to yours, like the stars in the sky." He sat on the edge of the reef, looking in the direction of the waves, and his back looked very sad. Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. Love stories were always the most touching when they had tragic endings, and tragic endings were always the most memorable. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mention this." She took a step in his direction, raised her hand and patted his shoulder. "Can I hug you? You really look like her," he asked. Yi Huanyan patted his shoulder harder, and her eyes almost rolled to the sky. "Hey, that's enough. Sapphires like eyes, and they look like mine." "Are my eyes sapphires?" His lie to gain sympathy was exposed, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in Ling Han's eyes. He touched his shoulder that hurt from the pat and frowned. "Ahem. That I was just joking. You're trying to gain sympathy and take advantage of her, right? I'm a man. If I really wanted to take advantage of you. This place is so remote. Can you hide? I've practiced martial arts. Do you want to try?" After a few words, the two stared at each other, and after a few seconds of stalemate, they suddenly looked at each other and smiled. "How many girls have you fooled with this kind of lame story? And there really are quite a few, but an exception like you're the first. These girls are too illogical. The scenery is beautiful, the people are beautiful. There are many people who come here to hunt. Who cares if what you say is true or false? I care. The false will never become true. Even if you deceive yourself, it's useless, and it will disappear in the blink of an eye. But the true will always be the most profound in my memory. Even if it's not so beautiful, it will still be the most profound." Just a moment ago, Ling Han had been treating this rather sweet-looking woman as a target for this flight, but after hearing her words, his heart had quietly undergone a change that even he himself wasn't aware of. He put away the flirtatious teasing, and seriously looked at the woman in front of him, a naive yet mature woman. Chapter 104. In fact, the sunrise here is more beautiful. When Ling Han said this, Yi Huanyan's face showed a strange look. "It's getting late. I should go back to the hotel. Don't get me wrong. I just want to say, if you have time later, can I invite you to come and see the sunrise?" The sincerity in his eyes was very moving, and Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Waking up from the infirmary, in a few words, she almost learned that the air steward, who was considered a warm man by most girls at first impression, was a man who was ambiguous by nature. He treated women with ease, and directly showed how much he had a romantic past. She had seen more than one man, who was romantic by nature. She almost didn't hesitate. She held the scattered long hair on her temples and smiled. "Okay." He didn't know why. When he heard her agree so simply, Ling Han suddenly felt that he was being perfunctory. He couldn't help frowning. When he saw her flat face, this feeling became more and more obvious. He was sure it was not an illusion. There was an indescribable sense of mystery in this woman, which made her feel extraordinarily attractive. It seemed that she was different from the women he had met before. Her body was full of the temptation of purity and beauty, which made people want to have it. Bali Holiday Hotel. Presidential suite. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows was a huge swimming pool. Hot beauties in bikinis were frolicking by the water. Looking into the distance, there was an endless coastline. Under the night sky, only the sound of the waves could be heard. Ling Han stood in front of the window and made 2 phone calls, both of which were turned off. His face was completely dark. At this time, Sheng Amran just came out of the bath, put on light makeup, removed the beauty of the past, and deliberately made a bit of a pure look, but a piece of black lace pajama strap exposed from the bathrobe betrayed this artificial purity. Han, why don't you look well? She took Ling Han's arm from behind and showed a perfect smile. Are you hungry? I'll accompany you to eat. Ling Han frowned, looked down at the 2 phone calls that had been made without any response, and pulled his arm out of Sheng Anren's hand. I have something to do. You can eat by yourself. Hey Han, where are you going? Sheng Anren's questioning did not get any response. Her high-heeled shoes stepped on the cashmere carpet, and her scream was drowned in the loud sound of Ling Han closing the door. She sat down on the carpet and rubbed her ankles while taking off her black strappy high heels. She stared at the closed door for a few seconds, and there was a trace of coldness in her eyes. The phone beside her rang. She glanced at it, frowned, and picked up the call. What's the matter? Big sis and ran. We saw President Ling go out. Looking at the direction, he seems to be heading towards the airport. Sheng Anren's face became more and more gloomy. He clenched the high-heeled shoes in his hand, then raised them high and smashed them toward the door. The high-heeled shoes hit the door panel, making a loud noise, and fell to the carpet. The expensive custom-made high-heeled shoes were ignored at this moment, like discarded garbage. Late at night, Ling Han sent Yi Huanyan safely back to the hotel and carefully helped her with her luggage. You're staying in this hotel? Yes, what's the matter? What a coincidence. I'm going to relax here this time. After work today, I'll come here tomorrow for a short trip at the end of the year. But the hotel hasn't been booked yet. If I say that I'll stay here, you won't mind, right? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned, then immediately smiled and said, The hotel is here, and it's not owned by my family. Of course, I don't mind if you want to stay. I mean, if I'm free. I don't know if I'll be lucky enough to meet you again. Ling Han blinked and added wittily, By the way, I'm very familiar with this place. I can reduce the possibility of you taking a lot of unnecessary detours. If so, of course, I'd be honored, but... Yi Huanyan shrugged helplessly. I'm not here for tourism, but for work. My colleagues are all staying in this hotel. As a behind-the-scenes staff, I'm afraid I don't have time to rest. A trace of loss flashed in Ling Han's eyes, but she still insisted. Not at all? It's the first time I've been rejected by a beauty like this. It sounds like an excuse. What should I do? I'm so disappointed. Yi Huanyan was shocked by his exaggerated disappointment. She spread her hands and said helplessly, How about this? If you really stay in this hotel, when I'm not busy, I'll have time to listen to you explain the local customs here. We can walk by the beach and enjoy the sea breeze. Or like you said, we can watch the sunrise together. What do you think? Does this count as a promise? Ling Han had a smile in her eyes. Her sly expression made her look like a fox. Promise you what? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Go on a date with me. Hey, that's not what I meant. Yi Huanyan pushed him a little embarrassedly. In a taxi not far away, a pair of deep eyes were filled with gloom. The driver's voice in English sounded in the car. Sir, we've arrived at the hotel. The man pulled out a stack of local banknotes from his wallet and threw it on the seat. Then, he got out of the car with a cold face and walked towards the figure who was pulling her suitcase and preparing to check in at the front desk. Yi Huanyan gestured and spoke in broken English to the front desk. Excuse me. Help me with the check-in procedures. The front desk babbled for a long time. She barely understood a word that sounded like document. She hurriedly took out her ID card and handed it over. The procedures were completed quickly. The front desk lady took out the room card with a smile and handed it to her. Just as she raised her head, a large hand fell from the sky. Yi Huanyan watched as her room card fell into someone else's hand. She turned around in surprise and met a pair of cold eyes. Where did you go? It was obvious that he was questioning her in a sullen tone. This kind of question was just a kind of humiliation in Yi Huanyan's heart. He was clearly the one who left her alone at the airport. He clearly knew that her English was not good, and she was unfamiliar with this place. How could he do such a thing? She had countless questions in her heart, but when the words came to her mouth, she swallowed them all back. President Ling, I'm not feeling well. I came back late from the airport. If there was any work delay, I'm really sorry. The coldness in Ling Han's eyes was spreading little by little. The receptionist at the front desk was looking at the two of them in confusion. The entire hotel was almost booked by pleasure, and the artists coming and going were also looking at them with different expressions. Yi Huanyan suddenly realized something. She gritted her teeth and reminded him, "President Ling, please mind your words and actions in public." She actually dared to threaten him. She had really grown up. The coldness in his eyes had dropped to the freezing point. "Is that so? Well then, let's change to a place where no one is around to talk. President Ling, it's after work time. If you want to sleep on the streets after work time, then don't come." Ling Han held a room card between his index and middle fingers. He sneered and walked towards the elevator without looking back. Yi Huanyan's heart sank. She gritted her teeth and followed him. Chapter 105. The room card was placed against the sensor, and after a beep, the door opened automatically. Ling Han turned around and glanced at her with a cold expression. "Come in." Yi Huanyan pulled her suitcase and followed him in with a frown. At the corner of the corridor stood three indistinct figures. Their expressions were different, as if they had seen some incredible gossip. They looked at each other in bewilderment. As soon as she entered, Yi Huanyan leaned against the door. The man in front of her turned around and handed her the room card. Just as she was about to take it, a gust of wind blew past her ear. With a loud bang, a large hand passed through the air beside her right cheek and pressed against the door panel, closing the door tightly. Beep, beep, beep. The sensor beeped a few times, and the room returned to silence. She raised her head abruptly, and their eyes met. A pair of cold eyes. A pair of panicked eyes. "Where did you go after getting off the plane?" He enunciated each word clearly, and every word was filled with coldness. Yi Huanyan bit her lip. Her face turned pale when she thought about what had happened at the airport this evening, and how she had suddenly fainted in the restaurant. "At the airport?" He sneered. "Everyone has arrived at the hotel. Why did you stay at the airport for more than 4 hours?" "Why?" Yi Huanyan raised her head in disbelief. "Don't you know why? Speak clearly." Ling Han's face darkened. He didn't know what Yi Huanyan was referring to, but he vaguely realized that there was something wrong with her coming back so late. "There's nothing to say. Please move aside. I'm off work. I just want to rest now." She glanced at the arm beside her from the corner of her eye. She made up her mind and turned around, trying to leave his binding range. "Who's that man?" She felt a sharp pain in her shoulder. Her cheeks twitched slightly. She frowned and asked subconsciously, "What man?" "The man who sent you to the entrance of the hotel and was intimate with you." Yi Huanyan's face stiffened, and her frown deepened. She knew that if she couldn't explain clearly, there would be endless arguments and entanglement. She was very tired, and just wanted to end this stalemate as soon as possible. "Air steward of the airport, the flight we took. What I'm asking is, what does it have to do with you?" Yi Huanyan raised her eyes to look at him. The anger in his eyes made her reveal a trace of astonishment. "We just met. He's just sending me back." "Someone you just met is so kind as to send you back? Yi Huanyan, do you have a brain?" When she heard this, a thought that she couldn't believe flashed through her mind. Perhaps Ling Han was concerned about her? However, this thought was quickly dispelled. Instead, it was replaced by the thought that if he hadn't made a scene in the bathroom, she wouldn't have fainted at the airport. "You're thinking too much. He's very nice. He even treated me to a meal on the way back." Her indifferent words caused Ling Han's expression to darken even more. "You even ate with him?" He frowned as the tip of his nose caught a whiff of smoke. Yi Huanyan lowered her head in silence. "You have time to eat, but you don't have time to rush back to the hotel on time?" The force on her shoulder increased, and she twisted it painfully. A painful groan escaped from her teeth. She gritted her teeth and finally reached the peak of her anger. She fiercely broke free from his shackles, pushed his arm away and roared, "I don't even have the freedom to eat with others? Ling Han, do you know that I fainted at the airport alone? When I woke up, there was no one I knew around me. I couldn't understand what they were saying at all. Where were you at that time? Don't talk about going back to the hotel. If no one had found me, I might have died on the plane." Are you satisfied? Her roar echoed in the room. Ling Han's arm hung in the air, still in the position that she had pushed away. He didn't come back to his senses for a long time. The coldness in his eyes hadn't dissipated yet, but a layer of astonishment appeared. You fainted at the airport? No one had told him about this. Yes, are you satisfied? Her nose was sour, and her eyes were red. Crystal tears welled up in her eyes, and she looked extremely aggrieved. Ling Han frowned and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the sudden ringtone of the phone. Yi Huanyan caught a glimpse of Sheng Anren's name on the phone from the corner of her eye. She gritted her teeth, raised her sleeve to wipe her tears, and walked out of his shadow. Without saying a word, she pulled the suitcase to the bedside to unpack. Her voice was very dull. President Ling, I want to rest. If you have any questions, I want to report to you tomorrow. Ling Han held the phone and stared at the thin back of the woman in a daze. A trace of regret appeared in his eyes. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. The sound of the door closing behind her was not loud, but it made Yi Huanyan's heart tremble. After the door was closed, her fingers froze on the password lock of the suitcase, and she couldn't move anymore. Her tears finally couldn't stop, and they fell to the ground like broken pearls. She didn't know whether she was crying because of the pain in her shoulder, or because her heart was broken because of the man who hurt her again and again, or because she just felt wronged because of the bad experience of today. It seemed that a lot of emotions were mixed together. She wanted to vent, but she didn't even have the strength to speak. In the end, she could only let her tears fall, soak the sheets and fall asleep. In the presidential suite, Sheng Anren was holding the mobile phone, and her face was very ugly. There were photos sent by Rui Shui and others on the mobile phone. The picture of Ling Han and Yi Huanyan entering the room one after another was very clear. If it was just a suspicion before, then this time it was a fact. There was a noise at the door of the room. She closed the mobile phone and stood up from the sofa. When she saw the figure coming in, her face changed instantly, and she smiled. Han, you're back. Why didn't you answer the phone? What can I do for you? Ling Han frowned. I called room service to send some hotel snacks. I want to ask you if you want to try them. You? No, it's too late today. I have something to do tomorrow. Go to bed early. He looked dispirited and absent-minded. At the thought that he had just come out of Yi Huanyan's room, Sheng Anren's eyes were full of jealousy, but she didn't dare to show it when Ling Han was present. Then I'll stay with you. Sheng Anren reached out to hold his arm. No need. He raised his head, his eyes cold. Sheng Anren's heart tightened, his hands hanging in the air, and his face was a little stiff. I see. Looking at the back of Ling Han walking into the bedroom, Sheng Anren clenched her teeth, took back her hand hanging in the air, clenched it into a fist, and her red nails were almost embedded in the flesh. Her eyes swept over the snacks on the table, and her expression changed slightly. Over the past half year, she has stayed with Ling Han. She may not have learned anything else, but except for these flowers and plants that don't know themselves, she is almost familiar with them. When Yi Huanyan was taking a bath in the bathroom, she heard a doorbell ring. It rang for a long time and didn't stop. She thought there was something urgent. She took a bath in a hurry, wrapped herself in a bathrobe, and went out to open the door. Chapter 106. The security of the holiday hotel is very good. What's more, most of the hotel is booked by pleasure. All the artists of pleasure live on this floor. Yi Huanyan doesn't worry about any bad guys outside, so he opens the door directly. The woman standing at the door is tall and has the proportion of a model. Her chestnut wavy hair is spread over her shoulders. Her black floral suspender dress is very charming. Even women can't take their eyes off her. Miss Sheng, what can I do for you so late? Yi Huanyan is stunned. I heard from Han that you just came back from the airport. I was afraid that you didn't eat, so I brought you some snacks. Sheng Anren's face is calm, but there is some meaning in his eyes. Is it convenient? Can I go in? Yi Huanyan is stunned for a few seconds. He frowns and gives way. Yes. She is not very familiar with Sheng Anren. The behavior of preparing snacks for her so late at night is either to ask her to do something, or to pay a New Year's visit to a weasel. He has no good intentions. She moves the clothes on the sofa to the bed and says embarrassedly, "Sit down. It's a little messy here." Sheng Amren looks at her from head to toe. For the first time, he feels that Yi Huanyan is not as old-fashioned and serious as he usually looks. "I'm afraid that he is frivolous to the home." Yi Huanyan dried her hair and wrapped it up with a bath towel. Then she pulled a chair and looked into Sheng Amren's eyes. "Miss Sheng, you care about me so much because of President Ling, right?" Sheng Amren's face changes slightly. He is surprised that Yi Huanyan dares to mention Ling Han in front of him. Yi Huanyan lowers his head slightly and stuffs a strand of wet hair on his shoulder into the bath towel. He looks natural, as if there is no flaw. "Although I am the secretary of President Ling, I only deal with work matters. If you have anything to say to President Ling, I may not be able to help." "Secretary Yi, do you think I come to you to ask you to do something?" Yi Huanyan's action of tidying up his hair is slightly stiff, and he slowly raises his head to look at her. If that was the case, then he was probably up to no good. Sheng Amren raised one leg and gently overlapped the other leg, showing the smooth white long leg in front of Yi Huanyan. For a moment, the scenery under the skirt was visible at a glance. Yi Huanyan awkwardly looked away. Sheng Amren's faint voice sounded in the room. "In the past, I didn't realize that Secretary Yi had such a good figure. Those old-fashioned work clothes really wronged such a good foundation. If I said that you were an artist in the company, probably no one would refute. Secretary Yi is 26 or 27 years old this year, right? Do you have a boyfriend?" It was supposed to be a compliment, but when it came out of her mouth, it made people panic. "Miss Sheng, this seems to be a private matter of mine. There's no need to publicize it." Yi Huanyan frowned as he looked at her, faintly realizing that she had come with ill intentions. "Secretary Yi, I also understand that a person who has been working hard around Han for a long time may not have time to fall in love. If there is a chance, I would like to introduce some friends to Secretary Yi." "No need." A look of disgust appeared on Yi Huanyan's face. Sheng Amren suddenly laughed. "So eager to refuse, Secretary Yi. Do you have any favorite candidate in your heart?" Her eyes flashed with cold light, and her face was faintly blue. "Secretary Yi, I advise you to look for a man. You should wipe your eyes. You can't get close to anyone. At that time you will suffer a loss. You can't get any benefits. You will also ruin your future. But the gain is not worth the loss." Yi Huanyan's face changed and gradually turned white. "What do you mean?" Sheng Amren raised his eyes with a contemptuous look. "I know everything about you and Han. You don't have to hide it. In this case, let's open the sky window and talk frankly. Say it. What do you want? I will satisfy you within the right range. I only have one request. Don't pester Han anymore. These days people die for money and birds die for food." She believed that Ling Han would not marry a secretary without power and influence. Yi Huanyan should also know this, so it was better to seize what she could get when she could get something. "Secretary Yi, you are a smart person. I don't have so much patience, so I hope you can make a decision now, and your decision will determine what attitude I will have to you in the future. I don't think you want to experience something like the airport again. Do you?" "What happened at the airport?" "What? Secretary Yi's temper is so bad? You forgot it so soon?" Looking at Sheng Amren's proud face, she suddenly remembered that she fainted in the restaurant inexplicably. Before that, the little artist who didn't know her gave her a cup of brown sugar water. Yi Huanyan's face gradually turned ugly. She slowly took a breath, and her face became cold. When encountering such a thing, she would have retreated if she could. But today, it was Sheng Amren who went too far. "Miss Sheng, I was taught what happened at the airport. I admit that I was unlucky, but no matter what my relationship with President Ling is, I want to ask in what capacity do you talk to me about this?" The proud look on Sheng Amren's face slightly stagnated. "What do you mean?" People all over the country know that she and Ling Han go in and out together, and show affection on various occasions. The whole pleasure group treat her as the future Mrs. Ling and respect her. Now she is a secretary. Is she openly questioning her weight in Ling Han's heart? I don't mean anything. When Miss Sheng reminds me to put my position in the right place, I also hope that Miss Sheng can have self-awareness to put your position in the right place. If I remember correctly, President Ling has never officially announced to anyone who you are. In addition to the artist signed by the company, what other identity do you have, Miss Sheng? She sneered. Or, what qualifications do you have to say these words to me? Yi Huanyan. Sheng Anren raised her voice and was so angry that she couldn't speak. Her face was filled with anger. No one had ever dared to not give her face like this. Even those wild flowers and weeds by Ling Han's side in the past would turn pale when they saw her. With just a few words, they would be so scared that they would give up and not dare to have too much contact with Ling Han. Yi Huanyan is really the chief secretary of the pleasure group. She can enter the pleasure group as soon as she graduates. She has been the chief secretary for so long. She is really calm and has some skills. Yi Huanyan is not afraid at all. She looks at her coldly with her arms crossed. Miss Sheng, I don't have the habit of eating supper. Please bring your snacks with you when you leave. I'll also give you a small suggestion. Don't eat supper at night and maintain a good figure. Perhaps you can stay by President Ling's side a little longer. Sheng Anren clenched her fists and stared at her with gnashing teeth, as if she wanted to eat her. Wait for me. I don't mean to go against you. Yi Huanyan looked at the door and explained casually. I'm just a secretary. I do my job well, that's all. She meant to show goodwill. But her previous words had angered Sheng Anren. These words were more like a demonstration in her ears. Chapter 107. Coming out of Yi Huanyan's room, Sheng Anren's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Before returning to the room, he sent a text message and gripped his phone tightly. I want you to torture her to death. It's best to let her leave Bali as soon as possible. After it's done, you'll be rewarded. The next morning, Yi Huanyan went out early to prepare for the banquet. The banquet was on the beach near the hotel. Before coming, she had negotiated with the hotel staff. They would be responsible for the main layout. The host of the banquet would be Pleasure Zone artist. Most of the complicated work had been communicated in China. Now she only needed to watch the banquet and not be lazy, so it was easy. When setting up the stage, she held the layout blueprint in her hand and directed the placement of various flower beds and carpets. Secretary Yi, where is the sound system here? Behind the background wall. Pay attention to the lines. Don't let the artists and customers trip. Is the bonfire ready? It's too late to make the bonfire at night, right? It's ready in advance in case there are any accidents at night. Okay, then let's go find the prop master first. I'll wait for you here. After a series of instructions, Yi Huanyan's face was full of sweat. She took out a bottle of mineral water from her bag and unscrewed the cap, only to find that there was not a drop left. The tropical area was indeed only suitable for lazily blowing the wind. Doing a little thing would make people collapse. Just as she was feeling annoyed, a hand reached out from within her sight. It was holding a bottle of iced mineral water. The outer packaging was dripping water, making people feel refreshed under the hot sun. Beauty Yi. A familiar voice sounded beside her. She suddenly raised her head and looked at the person in surprise. Thinking of what happened the night before, she smiled knowingly. You really live here? Ling Han was dressed in a blue floral holiday singlet and shorts. His whole person was very casual and lazy. His face under the sunglasses was very white and delicate, making people envious. Do I look like the kind of person who lies to little girls all day long? Ling Han blinked, looking a little playful. You look like it, but I'm not a little girl. After saying this, the two looked at each other and laughed tacitly. She took the bottle of mineral water from Ling Han's hands and gulped down a few mouthfuls, not bothering to hide her boldness. Ling Han had just finished the procedures for his shift last night, and he was still pulling his suitcase. It was obvious that he had not checked in yet, so Yi Huanyan took the initiative to bring him to the front desk. When our company made the reservation, we booked a few more rooms in case of emergencies. Now that everyone is here, it's not easy to return the empty rooms. Later, you can just say that you're from our company. Consider it as me offering you a gift of your own. Thank you for sending me back last night. There was a smile in Ling Han's eyes. Does this count as using your position for personal gain? If the boss finds out, it won't be good. It doesn't matter. Our boss never takes these trivial matters seriously. On the observation deck on the second floor of the hotel, a pair of deep eyes reflected the scene of a man and a woman laughing wantonly on the beach. The man's face suddenly darkened. He stood up from the recliner and strode into the room. At the front desk, Yi Huanyan took Ling Han's ID card and handed it to the front desk receptionist. She used broken English to explain that this was the first batch of company employees who had arrived after the flight was delayed and were preparing to check in. Ling Han, who was standing at the side, let out a mocking laugh when he saw how unperturbed her expression was. What are you laughing at? Isn't it good to save money for you? This hotel isn't cheap. You've earned back the barbecue you treated me to. Yi Huanyan's face was slightly red. After all, she was also offering him a gift of his own. She did not have to be so self-righteous. Ling Han restrained his smile. Why don't I use the money I saved to treat you to some other interesting things? Before Yi Huanyan could think of a reply, her gaze looked over Ling Han's shoulder and saw the figure striding over in the distance. Her face suddenly froze. Why was she so unlucky? Shouldn't he be eating breakfast at this time? Secretary Yi. The expected voice suddenly sounded, with a hint of coldness. Instead of helping to set up the scene early in the morning, you're fooling around with a strange man at the front desk of the hotel. Don't you want your job anymore? Ling Han, who was beside her, frowned and sized up the person. From his tone, he guessed that this person was probably Yi Huanyan's superior. So he helped to explain. Sir, I'm preparing to check into this hotel. I'm just asking her to lead the way. Lead the way? Ling Han sneered. You were leading the way last night too? Ling Han was surprised. The front desk receptionist had already completed the check-in procedures and returned the ID card. She spoke fluent English and said that Ling Han was an employee of pleasure. With this, she directly exposed Yi Huanyan's intentions of using her position for personal gain. Her heart sank as she watched Ling Han walk past Ling Han and take the ID card from the receptionist. After glancing at it, he sneered and said two words meaningfully, Ling Han. Yi Huanyan swallowed. She felt that her throat was too tight, and she couldn't say a word. She didn't know what Ling Han said to the front desk receptionist, but she felt that his expression gradually turned ugly. He snatched the ID card and looked at Yi Huanyan angrily. Miss Yi, I think it's better for me to check into another hotel. Let's contact again when we have time. Yi Huanyan was confused as she watched him leave with his luggage without looking back. A meaningful sneer sounded in his ears. Ling Han, Yi Huanyan, you're really something. It's me who didn't satisfy you. So you went through so much trouble to find such a substandard substitute to satisfy your dedication, right? It was a naked humiliation. Yi Huanyan's face turned green. She looked up at him. What did you say to the front desk? You want to know? I said. Ling Han looked at her stunned expression, and a playful look flashed across his eyes. He stuffed a room card into Yi Huanyan's hand, and his breath brushed past her neck. It was extremely flirtatious. Come over at 9:30 tonight, and I'll tell you. She tried to push the room card back, but was warned by his cold eyes. It's your business whether you come or not. You can guess what I'll do if you're just a minute late. She actually didn't know what Ling Han would do. Perhaps he would punish her even more harshly, or perhaps he would threaten her with Ji Xiaoya's job like he did in the past. Actually, no matter how she thought about it, the funny thing was that she didn't have many things that belonged to her in this world. In the end, his threats were all because he was trampling on her love for him from the bottom of her heart. In the end, she was the one who let herself fall. She was the one who let others take advantage of her. She clenched her fingers. Sweat soaked the room card, and her face was excessively pale. Chapter 108. At the beginning of the night, the beach was ablaze with lights. The artists who paid attention to skincare and dared not go out in the daytime came out in full force at this moment, competing to put on various small dresses, and actively made friends with various clients who could bring them resources. If they were lucky, They might find a financier who could promote them. This was the core value of this trip to begin with. It might sound like an unimaginable lascivious party, but this was how the industry worked. Besides, everyone was willing. Even Ling Han couldn't casually interfere with this kind of effort, made by an artist to climb up the social ladder. Yi Huanyan didn't plan to attend this kind of banquet where hundreds of flowers bloomed. After preparing for the carnival party, she went back to her room to change out of her sweaty work clothes. She wore a low-key loose black dress shirt, and her waist was nowhere to be found. Ji Xiaoya said when she saw this dress for the first time, "With your black bun, you are totally an old Taoist nun." Yi Huanyan was very willing to dress herself up as an old Taoist nun. In this way, no one would notice her in the crowd. She only needed to symbolically clink glasses with the artists and clients to make sure that they were not uncomfortable and had a good time. Then, her task tonight would be considered completed. When she met Sheng Anren, she was surrounded by a group of small transparent artists in the company. A few compliments fell into Yi Huanyan's ears, which made her a little sick. She just wanted to avoid her eyes quickly. She couldn't afford to offend, but she could always hide. "Secretary Yi is here too?" Sheng Anren's voice was sharp and thin, which sounded a little harsh. She still couldn't escape. Yi Huanyan had to face the difficulties. She smiled slightly with a wine glass in her hand and said in a serious official tone, "Miss Sheng, is the banquet satisfactory? Are you having a good time?" Sheng Anren looked at her dress, and a trace of strangeness flashed in her eyes. Isn't it inappropriate for Secretary Yi to dress so simply for such a big occasion? The surrounding artists all looked at him with disdain. Yi Huanyan smiled sheepishly. "I'm a behind-the-scenes worker, so I don't have to dress so formally like everyone else. As long as everyone has fun, it's fine." "What are you talking about? It's all thanks to Secretary Yi that we were able to complete this trip so smoothly. How can we let our great contributor be so shameful?" A faint light flashed in Sheng Anren's eyes. "How about this, Xiao Shui? You guys take Secretary Yi to get changed." "That's a good idea. My figure is similar to Secretary Yi's. Let's exchange for mine." Zhao Bingqing looked very agreeable, for fear that others would not know that she and Sheng Anren were on the same side. "No need, I really." Yi Huanyan didn't expect that these weak female artists could be so strong. She was almost dragged away by the three people around Sheng Anren, and she had no ability to resist at all. "Aya, Secretary Yi, don't decline. Do you think we'll eat you?" In the midst of the tugging, there was the sound of clothes tearing in the air. Her expression stiffened, and her voice turned cold. "What are you doing?" The three people looked at each other. At this time, what Rui Shui tore in her hand was the zipper on the side of the shirt skirt. Without the support of the zipper, the whole armpit was completely open, and the black bra was exposed. Yi Huanyan covered her clothes and hurriedly hid in the dressing room. "Well, I didn't mean to. You don't be angry, Secretary Yi. I'll compensate you." Rui Shui stood at the door of the dressing room with a guilty face. Lin Jia hurried from the direction of the hotel with a bag in her hand. "The dress." Yi Huanyan sat on the sofa in the dressing room, staring at the white evening dress in her hand, and her eyebrows were full of displeasure. Her intuition told her that the minions around Sheng Anren were up to no good. The incident of the brown sugar water had made her miserable enough. What tricks did they want to play this time? However, since her clothes were torn, she couldn't just walk back to the wine room with her bra exposed. She could only sigh and accept her fate. She checked the evening gown from top to bottom. After confirming that there was no odor or intentional flaw, she reluctantly put it on. Because it was a strapless dress, there were also breast pads in the bag. She couldn't expose the shoulders of her underwear. She could only take off her underwear and put on the breast pads. She braced herself and walked out of the dressing room. The three people guarding outside the door saw Yi Huanyan come out. They all widened their eyes and looked surprised. She usually dressed conservatively, but at this moment, she didn't look dark at all in this white evening dress. Her white shoulders, small collarbone, and exquisite figure were very attractive. Zhao Bingqing couldn't help but secretly glare at Lin Jia, and her mouth scolded her for choosing such a suit for her. Lin Jia blinked aggrievedly. Rui Shui asked her to take the dress. "Like I said, Secretary Yi is a beauty. You will definitely be gorgeous in this evening dress. Rui Shui's mouth seemed to be smeared with honey, and she kept praising. Yi Huanyan couldn't stand the disturbance. She held the bag with her clothes and bra in one hand, and the skirt in the other hand. Her expression was cold. I'll go back to the hotel to change. I'll return it to you after I change. Hey, the swimming pool is lively now. Secretary Yi, don't you want to play? No, you can play. That's a pity. It's rare to wear such beautiful clothes. Listening to the three people talking excitedly, Yi Huanyan felt disgusted to the extreme. Is it interesting to follow Sheng Anren and mess with others? Don't think that you have done something great. She will look at you differently. If something goes wrong, you will be the first to be pushed out as a shield. Secretary Yi, what are you talking about? The three people guiltily avoided her eyes. What brown sugar water at the airport? Miss Zhao, there is nothing wrong with my brain. Such a low-level method. Please don't use it in the future. Yi Huanyan coldly glanced at Zhao Bingqing. I'm not in a good mood today. Please stay away from me. After saying this, she walked into the depths of the crowd without looking back. The remaining three people stood there and looked at each other, their faces more ugly than the other. They had to pass by the swimming pool to return to the hotel from the dressing room. At this moment, the swimming pool was bustling with people. Many customers gathered around the swimming pool to admire the attractive figures of the bikini beauties. Yi Huanyan lifted her skirt and walked a few steps before Zhao Bingqing shouted behind her. Secretary Yi, wait a minute, I have something to tell you. Yi Huanyan frowned and her face sank. What else do you have to say? Was there an end to it? I'm sorry about what happened on the plane. Zhao Bingqing stared at her with guilt in her eyes. But in our line of work, we are most afraid of offending people, so I had no choice. It really wasn't my intention. I promise I won't do such a thing in the future. I was blinded at that time. Her eyes were red and she looked like she was about to cry. Forget it. I don't intend to be calculative about these things. Yi Huanyan frowned even more. She looked around, afraid that others would think that she was bullying this pitiful little artiste. It's one thing to do, two things are the same. I think you won't be calculative about it. The voice in her ears suddenly became gloomy. Huh? Before she could react, she felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. She suddenly lost her balance and fell into the swimming pool. Water splashed everywhere. Her mouth and nose were filled with swimming pool water. She couldn't find any support on her body. Fear flooded her. Chapter 109. Yi Huanyan only felt that her body was as heavy as a lead weight. After her dress was soaked, the weight increased and she kept sinking. She couldn't use any of her swimming skills. In her panic, she had already gulped down several mouthfuls of water. She heard screams and shouts. Her body seemed to have been pushed by someone under the water. Her toes touched the bottom of the pool. After struggling a few times, she staggered to stand firm. The pool wasn't deep. The water level only reached Yi Huanyan's waist. As soon as she stood firm, she heard a lot of noise. There was laughter and discussion. She wiped her face and forced herself to open her eyes. There were many people standing by the pool. They were looking at her with different expressions. Like monkeys in a zoo, they gave out sympathetic, shocked, erotic, or shy gazes. She followed those people's gazes and lowered her head. The white dress clung to her body and was soaked in water. The two symmetrical flesh-colored breast pads on her left and right were very obvious. In an instant, there was a roar in her head. She suddenly covered her chest and squatted in the water. Her eyebrows drooped, and she bit her lips tightly. She did not dare to raise her head, but the constant laughter and discussions entered her head from the corner of her eyes. It was as if she had stepped into a minefield, and all kinds of explosions kept happening, until her ears couldn't hear anything. There was only a buzzing sound left. Isn't that Secretary Yi? How did she fall in such a big place? What do you mean fall in? She's wearing this kind of dress by the pool. She did it on purpose, right? It was unknown who whistled. Those men who hadn't reacted before seemed to release their natural instincts. They followed along and laughed. Some people even threw balloons into the pool. Some people even directly jumped into the water and swam past Yi Huanyan. However, no one wanted to help her. Those ambiguous gazes, those mocking and ridiculing faces, those adding insult to injury, pushed the atmosphere of the pool party to a climax. She squatted in the water and slowly walked to the edge. The heavy dress made it difficult for her to take a step. She even felt that the dress was so heavy that it was about to fall from her chest. She had to free one hand to hold the dress. She gritted her teeth, refusing to let her tears fall. However, when she reached the shore, those people were still looking at her. The white gauze on her body was no different from being naked. She gritted her teeth and her eyes reddened. When she looked up, she saw a familiar figure standing in the corner. Ling Han's eyes swept over her, as if he didn't see her. He took the wine glass from Sheng Anren's hand and smiled. She turned her head with a pained look in her eyes. For a moment, she even thought that if the pool was deep enough, it would be good to drown here. "Miss!" The hotel waiter hurried over, squatted by the pool, and extended his hand to her. He handed her a black suit jacket and said a bunch of English, but she didn't understand at all. At this moment, the jacket was her last hope. She hugged the jacket and put it on in the water. She did her best to fasten every button, and then climbed out of the water with the help of the waiter. He was in an extremely sorry state. Standing by the pool, the large men's suit was like a broken sack on her body. A pair of slender legs were clinging to the white gauze, which was faintly discernible and seductive. The sound of whistling became more and more jubilant. She grabbed the hem of the jacket and lifted the wet skirt. She gritted her teeth and glanced at the corner, but she didn't get any response. The noise around her seemed to have nothing to do with her. Whether it was the laughter, the whistling, or the manic sound of someone suddenly turning on the sound system, they were all like the liveliness of another parallel world, gradually drifting away from her. She couldn't avoid the party that was reaching its climax. She ran back to the hotel barefoot with her last strength. As soon as she returned to the room, she closed the door and burst into tears. In his eyes, she was just a woman who could be played with. So even if she was in such a mess, it was not a big deal in his eyes. In the corner of the party, Sheng Anren retracted his gaze from the direction where Yi Huanyan had just disappeared and said jokingly, "Secretary Ye's figure is really good. Thanks to her, this party is much livelier now." As soon as his voice fell, he looked up and met Ling Han's cold eyes. He held a wine glass and stared at the male artists who took the lead in whistling. He raised his head and drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. Her eyes were slightly sluggish, and her chest tightened for no reason. Ling Han looked at her with an indifference that had never been seen before. "It was your people who pushed Secretary Yi into the water, right?" Her face suddenly froze. She secretly pinched her thigh and forced herself to make a puzzled expression. She frowned and said, Who pushed Secretary Yi into the water?" Ling Han sneered. "Your way of doing things is too low. I don't care about those people in the past, but don't go too far with the people around me. She is my secretary. You humiliated her like this. Are you planning to slap my face?" "Han, that's not what I meant. Today's party is boring. I'll go back first. You can continue to play." He put down the wine glass, glanced at her, and left resolutely. Sheng Anren's eyes froze, and he didn't come back to his senses for a long time. In the past, he could turn a blind eye to so many things. Why couldn't Yi Huanyan? Or was it that Ling Han really treated Yi Huanyan differently? A trace of viciousness flashed in her eyes. Yi Huanyan had to be on guard against this. When he walked to the door of Yi Huanyan's room, the waiter was still waiting at the door. When he saw Ling Han, he stood aside respectfully. "Mr. Ling, according to your instructions, I sent Miss Yi back. No one came to look for her. Can we go now?" Ling Han was about to nod when he suddenly thought of something and glanced at the closed door. "Before you leave, ask her to open the door. Tell her that you have something to do with her." The waiter was slightly stunned, but he didn't ask. He knocked on the door as instructed. The sleeve of the suit was exposed through the crack of the door. Yi Huanyan's hand was hidden in the sleeve. At this time, she was holding the door frame through the sleeve of the suit. She stared at the waiter through the crack of the door. The tears on her face hadn't dried yet. Her voice was a little choked, and her poor English was even more grammatical at the moment. I'll wash the suit and return it to you. Leave me your number. Who do you want to return it to? At the moment Yi Huanyan closed the door, his knee pressed against the door panel. The waiter looked at the strange posture of the two people, suddenly lowered his head, and tactfully turned around to leave. Open the door before I speak properly. One of Yi Huanyan's eyes was exposed through the crack of the door. President Ling, I'm not feeling well now. Please let me rest first. What? Do you feel that you just showed off your skills at the party, and now you want to be alone in the room to reflect on the admiring eyes of those men? He suddenly exerted his strength, and there was a muffled groan in the room. Ling Han pushed the door open and then closed it. His gaze was slightly lowered. On the carpet, the white dress was wet and bunched up. The woman was lying on the ground, and the black suit on her shoulders was scattered under her body. Her exquisite curves were faintly discernible under a layer of white gauze. There was an irresistible sexiness in her purity. Chapter 110. Yi Huanyan fell to the ground and groaned in pain. She heard the door open behind her. She stiffened and struggled to get up from the ground. Ling Han leaned over and reached out to her. She couldn't tell if he was good or bad from his expressionless face. Get up. Yi Huanyan supported half of her body with one hand on the ground. At this time, seeing Ling Han reach out to her, she was slightly moved. She thought that he turned a blind eye to her by the swimming pool just now, because he didn't want to expose their relationship in front of everyone. She felt a little comforted. You lost face in front of so many people. Do you think you're the only one who lost face? This sentence made her raise her hand to stop abruptly and hang by her side. You're still as brainless as before. Ling Han frowned and looked a little disgusted. Seeing that she didn't move, his frown deepened. He picked her up and threw her into the bathroom. With a whoosh, the door of the bathroom was closed, separating the two of them. Even a few mediocre artists can ride on your head. You must be tired of being the chief secretary. A series of sarcasm made Yi Huanyan's body gradually stiffen. She held the glass door of the shower and stood for a long time, looking at the tall figure swaying faintly behind the frosted door of the bathroom. Every word of sarcasm stabbed into her heart, making it bleed until it became numb. After a long time, the figure at the door disappeared. She finally exhaled slowly, turned on the shower head, and poured cold water on her head. She shivered and her mind was inexplicably clearer. This trip to Bali was expected to be difficult, but now it seemed that it wasn't that bad. She took a quick shower with the cold water. When she turned off the shower, she suddenly realized that she didn't bring any clothes. She looked up at the white towel on the towel rack, frowned, and subconsciously looked in the direction of the bathroom door. Ling Han should have left. She walked out of the bathroom barefoot with a towel wrapped around her hair. As soon as she stepped out of the bathroom door, she saw a figure lying lazily on the sofa with a hotel magazine on his lap. His whole body was leaning against the sofa with his eyes closed and breathing evenly. She stopped and a trace of panic appeared on her face. She subconsciously covered the towel on her chest. It seemed that he was asleep. She breathed a sigh of relief and tiptoed toward the suitcase that was placed beside her bed. She took out her pajamas from her suitcase. Hugging the pajamas, she turned around to take a look. After confirming that Ling Han was sleeping soundly, she hugged the pajamas and tiptoed back to the bathroom. When she closed the door, it inevitably made a sound. She closed her eyes abruptly and quickly locked the door. Ling Han on the sofa slowly opened his eyes, leisurely picked up the magazine on his lap, and walked to the bed. In the bathroom, Yi Huanyan looked at herself in the mirror. The pink silk nightgown accentuated her flawless shoulders. There was a string of white embroidered flowers on the chest, and her cleavage was partly visible. However, the half-sleeved silk nightgown was too wow, so the nightgown wasn't that revealing. What made her embarrassed was that she had actually forgotten to take her underwear in such a hurry after running back and forth. Through the nightgown, she touched her butt and felt inexplicably cold. She tiptoed out of the bathroom with her hands on her skirt, but was surprised to find that the man on the sofa was gone. Gone. She stared blankly for a moment before slowly exhaling. Then, she walked towards her bed in a rather relaxed manner. The man who was leaning against the bed was looking at her calmly, as if he was waiting for her. She was suddenly stunned. "You haven't left yet?" Ling Han looked at her from head to toe. His expression was calm, and there was a trace of contempt in the corner of his eyes. "From the looks of it, you don't seem to care much about what happened just now." Yi Huanyan's slightly red eyes showed a trace of panic, and her chest suddenly felt stuffy. She was a person who could let go of many things after crying. No one's life was easy. It seemed that there were always people who wanted to make things difficult for you and trample on you. If you couldn't even live with yourself, then what was the meaning of life? Her self-healing ability was strong, but it didn't mean that the pain in her heart disappeared just like that. The wound was always there. Even if the scar gradually disappeared, when she touched it again, there would still be a conditioned reflex of pain. She stared at Ling Han, and her eyes dimmed bit by bit. "Do you have anything else to say?" Ling Han frowned, and the expression on his face that was sizing her up restrained a little, but it was tinged with a faint anger. "You forgot the agreement with me this morning so quickly?" "In the morning? At the hotel front desk? The agreement about 9:30 in the evening? This is my room." Yi Huanyan's voice was a little muffled, and her fingers that were clenching her coat were slightly trembling. That ridiculous agreement was just a threat that he made alone. What kind of agreement was it? "Is that so?" Ling Han sat up from the bed, and his large hand covered the bedsheet beside him. He patted it gently. "Come here." Yi Huanyan took a step back. "President Ling, it's getting late. I asked you to come here." Ling Han's tone was slightly heavy, and Yi Huanyan's whole body trembled. It was obvious that she was afraid of him. Her fingers clutched the corner of her skirt, and she pulled it down with all her might. She was very nervous, and her eyes were red and swollen. It was obvious that she had just cried in the bathroom. Ling Han's tone was a little more relaxed. "Rest first. There's still work tomorrow. I hope you can cheer up." After saying this, he got up and walked towards the door. "I've already negotiated with the client about the contract renewal. I'll leave tomorrow." There was a hint of stubbornness in her voice behind him. His hand that was holding the door handle paused slightly. He turned his head and stared at the figure coldly. "What did you say?" "I plan to leave tomorrow. I won't be an eyesore here. I hope you have a good time with Miss Sheng." Ling Han's face darkened. "Did I say you could leave? President Ling, you probably drank too much tonight and forgot some things. For example?" The footsteps behind her approached step by step. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth. "On the plane. I really forgot." The sudden pressure on her shoulders made her whole body stiffen, and her whole body fell into a broad chest. She cried out in surprise. "Why don't we relive it once? Maybe I'll remember what I said to you on the plane." Her struggling hands were pinned behind her back, and she lost her balance and was violently pushed onto the bed. Her face smashed hard on the sheets, and as she twisted her waist and struggled, a gust of wind lifted the hem of her skirt up to her waist. Her snow-white buttocks were raised high, and they were completely exposed in the air. They were trembling slightly, and they were like two fragrant and soft white steamed buns. The swaying round shape in front of him made Ling Han's pupils contract abruptly, and a strange look appeared on his cold face. Yi Huanyan realized something. Shame filled her whole body, and she even forgot to struggle. "Yi Huanyan, you did this on purpose." She provoked him to stay, made him see this scene, and made him lose control. "Since that's the case, I'll satisfy you." Chapter 111. It was a night of passion without any accident. "I changed my mind," he gasped in her ear. Yi Huanyan opened her eyes wide, and had no energy to ask him what he had changed his mind about. A certain sensitive area in the lower half of his body was suddenly filled up, and the feeling of swelling filled his entire body. Every cell in his body was jumping excitedly, and the countless nerves in his head collapsed into thin threads, breaking one by one under the violent impact. The pink nightdress straps hung on the wooden post at the end of the bed, shaking wildly. The snow-white body glowed with a pink luster, violently undulating. Outside the window, the waves rose again and again, one wave higher than the other, pounding on the reef with a rough sound. That kind of sound drowned out the creaking sound of the bedboard, the heavy breathing, the screams or moans of pain or pleasure. The man was tireless, venting his terrible desire. The woman found a trace of shameful pleasure from the pain. Her lips, which she bit hard, finally loosened and made various sounds. At the door of the room, high-heeled shoes studded with rhinestones stepped on the red carpet. The black evening dress set off the woman's skin as white as jade. Listening to the faint sound from the room, the red lips on the face trembled slightly. Sheng Amren's face was gloomy to the extreme. She always thought that Ling Han just had some special hobbies, such as cleanliness, so he never touched her body. Or perhaps it could be said that he was frigid and only liked to admire, instead of personally experiencing it. That was why he let her take off her clothes on the bed that night. No matter how hard she tried to be flirtatious on the bed, he just sat on the sofa in the distance and admired quietly. His expression was indifferent and without any ripples. At this moment, the sound from this room undoubtedly gave her a slap in the face. What ability did Yi Huanyan have to let Ling Han sleep with her regardless of the occasion? It was the same on the plane and at the party. Pretending to be pure? His usual old-fashioned and solemn appearance? Or the first time to Ling Han? Maybe all men have a virgin complex? She gritted her teeth. No matter what, Ling Han was the man she saw first, and she tried her best to get him. If others dared to block her way to enter the Ling family and become Mrs. Ling, there was only one way to die. Deep into the night, the room was filled with boundless spring light. The atmosphere had reached its climax. A hint of urgency appeared on the man's face. Then, he let out a muffled groan and slowly exhaled. He turned over and got off the bed, putting on his pants without the slightest reluctance. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Stay here for the next few days. After saying this, he left without looking back. Yi Huanyan pulled the crumpled bedsheet from the side and hugged it tightly in her arms. Her body trembled slightly. After the passion, the pleasure disappeared, leaving behind only exhaustion and shame. His attitude towards her was as if he had a mistress who could not see the light of day, or perhaps even worse. She didn't know how much time had passed when she felt a throbbing pain in her temples. It was as if there was a drumstick pounding, making a deafening sound. After a long time, she realized that someone was ringing the doorbell. It was already so late, who else could it be? She hurriedly sat up and held onto the pillar by the head of the bed. She casually grabbed a bathrobe and tied it around her body before she staggered towards the door. As soon as he opened the door, a basin of cold water poured down his head, drenching his entire body. I didn't have time to see who it was. A gust of wind blew in his ears. Pa! A crisp sound resounded throughout the entire corridor. There was a burning pain in her right cheek. She covered her cheek in disbelief and raised her head. She looked at the person in front of her with blurred vision. Led by Sheng Anren, followed by the three artists who had set a trap for her at the party. One of them held a water basin in his hand and hid behind Sheng Anren with his face covered. Shameless. Sheng Anren's eyes were vicious. He stared at her angrily, as if he wanted to tear her apart. Are you crazy? Who's crazy? Am I wrong to say that you're shameless? Is it the temptation to get wet at the party? Don't tell me that Han just discussed work with you in your room. Secretary Yi, who usually looks serious, seduced her boss at night? Isn't it cheap? Yi Huanyan's face was stiff, and he had nothing to say for a while. You didn't listen to me when I warned you. This slap is light. Seeing that the second slap was about to fall, Yi Huanyan raised his hand and held her wrist. That's enough. Her eyes were cold. She made up her mind and said fiercely, since you know what I just did with Ling Han in the room, how dare you treat me like this? With the status of the three of you, aren't you afraid that President Ling will settle accounts with you? The three artists behind Sheng Anren lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Yi Huanyan. It's not that they don't understand this, but they follow Sheng Anren on the pirate ship and can't get down. Get out of here. She spat out a word and glanced at the three people coldly. The three people looked at each other and ran faster than mice. Sister Anren, we've done what you asked us to do. We'll go first. For a moment, the corridor was quiet again. Sheng Anren looked around and sneered. You have the ability. What? Do you think it's safe in this way? Are you afraid that we will bully you with more people? The party was about to end. Hearing the sound of people coming from the direction of the elevator, Yi Huanyan frowned, pulled Sheng Anren's arm, and dragged her directly into the room. What do you want to do? Sheng Anren was tripped and fell on the sofa. Her face darkened, and she was a little flustered. Bang! A sound was heard. Yi Huanyan closed the door and looked back to see Sheng Anren with a panicked face. She sneered, "You're afraid, Miss Sheng. Didn't you come to me?" She looked down at her wet clothes. "Isn't this your masterpiece? You deserve it. Who told you to steal other people's men?" Sheng Anren gritted her teeth and stared at Yi Huanyan. "Don't you know that being a mistress is shameful? No one will sympathize with you if you tell others about your behavior." "Mistress?" Yi Huanyan wiped her face and tucked her wet hair behind her ears. She grabbed a towel on the shelf and wiped her face, saying coldly, "You might as well say this to yourself. I've known Ling Han for 10 years. Who's the mistress?" Sheng Anren looked stiff. 10 years. Yi Huanyan's face was gloomy. Her feelings of 10 years were said to be a mistress by the woman who had just climbed Ling Han for less than a year. She was full of resentment. Who could she reason with? Was it really like what Ling Han said? Now even an artist from the company could ride on her head? 10 years ago, you hadn't debuted yet. Sheng Anren, don't take yourself too seriously. Unless you really become Mrs. Ling one day, don't show off in front of me. I, Yi Huanyan, am not afraid of others' threats. Her voice was never so cold. Even she didn't believe that she would say such a thing. After Sheng Anren left, she sat by the bed to tidy up her clothes. After tidying up for a while, she thought of her powerful words just now. She laughed at herself and looked at the door. Ling Han said that she had no brain, no ability and no temper. Then she vented her temper on his favorite woman. Anyway, she was going to leave. Why should she bear this kind of vexation? Chapter 112. In the early morning, the roar of the plane sounded over the Bali airport. Yi Huanyan leaned back in her seat and fell asleep as if a 1,000-pound boulder had fallen off her heart. Early the next morning, Ling Han walked out of the room in a white nightgown and full of spirit. In the dining room of the suite, there were all kinds of dishes prepared by Sheng Anren. When she saw him coming out, she went up to him with a smile. "Wake up. Have breakfast. You went to bed so early yesterday. I brought you something to eat when I came back. I didn't disturb you when I saw you sleeping. I'm a little hungry." Ling Han was in a good mood. He picked up the toast slice and took a bite, and walked towards the French window in the living room. Sheng Anren stood at the dining table, looking at his back thoughtfully, and glanced at the dining table. "Han, the front desk sent a note in the morning. I don't know who wrote it." "Note." Ling Han swallowed the bread and turned around. Sheng Anren picked up the white note under the plate from the dining table and walked up to him, twisting her waist. "Here." The familiar graceful handwriting made Ling Han's eyes suddenly become cold. "As you wish, I'll go first. I wish you a pleasant vacation," he asked coldly. "When did it come?" Sheng Anren hesitated for a moment, as if she was thinking. "About half an hour ago when breakfast was just delivered." "Hey Han, where are you going?" Looking at the back of Ling Han, who disappeared at the door in a bathrobe, Sheng Anren leaned against the windowsill, revealing a secret sneer. Of course, she had read the content of the note. Even if Ling Han chased after him now, she was afraid that he would not be able to catch the plane. Yi Huanyan was really unpredictable. Last night, she was so aggressive to her that she thought she had met a well-matched opponent. In the end, the woman told her that she had no intention of competing with her, and packed up her things and left the hotel in front of her. A gesture of goodwill? Sheng Anren sneered. She was sensible. The front desk checked out Yi Huanyan's checkout record at 1 o'clock in the morning. Ling Han returned to his room with a cold expression. His expression was extremely ugly. Sheng Anren looked as if she didn't understand what had happened. She went up to him in surprise and pouted. "Han, what's wrong? Where did he go? Why do you look so pale?" Ling Han supported himself with a chair and sat down. He stared at the food on the table and instantly lost his appetite. "How long do you plan to stay here this time?" "About 10 days. Ling Han frowned. "Why did it take so long?" Thinking of this, he thought of the woman who had run away at the last minute, and his eyes were filled with anger. Who gave her the guts to let her leave without his permission? It's cold. The weather is so good outside. Let's go swimming. Sheng Amren's coquettish voice sounded beside him, and her chest was almost pressed against his face. He turned his head in disgust. Go by yourself. The sun is too strong. Through the window, Sheng Amren looked at the seaside and rolled her eyes. I see that Manager Li and the others are all at the seaside. It seems that they are having a good time with several artists of our company. Han, are you really not going to take a look? Didn't you say last time that you still have a contract to discuss with Manager Li? Ling Han's face showed a trace of relaxation. After a few seconds, he stood up. Let's go. This Manager Li was the representative of the circle, who was not close to women. This was a rare opportunity. He went back to his room and changed into light seaside casual clothes. Looking at himself in the mirror, he slowly exhaled. Without Yi Huanyan, this trip had a greater meaning. The plane was delayed. When Yi Huanyan arrived at the airport of Lanjiang City, it was already late at night in Lanjiang City. She was dressed simply and waited for her luggage at the luggage carousel. It was 12 o'clock at night. There were not many people at the luggage carousel. Yi Huanyan looked around. Suddenly, there was a bustling crowd in the distance. It was a little noisy. She frowned and looked towards the source of the sound. 7 or 8 girls were surrounding someone and walking towards the luggage carousel next to her. The man in the middle was wearing a cap and a mask. He was being protected by the security guards and looked like he was having a hard time moving. However, he didn't show any impatience as he tried to persuade them. Well, let's wait for my luggage at the luggage carousel. I'll take a photo with you, okay? Su Nianhua spread out his hands. If you stop me like this, I won't have time to rest when I go back tonight. I have a job tomorrow. Embarrassed, the girls made way for him and apologized profusely, calling him Brother Yonyan. Fortunately, there were few people at the airport. If the number of fans was large, it would be useless to say anything. Yi Huanyan admired these little sisters who squatted at the airport all night. Where did they know Su Nianhua's itinerary? Or were they squatting here every day? Su Nianhua squeezed out of the crowd. Before he reached the luggage carousel, he saw a familiar figure 5 or 6 meters away. She was looking at him with a faint smile on her face. She seemed to be stunned for a moment and forgot to avoid him. Then, she looked at him gently and smiled. His heart moved, and he almost couldn't control himself and rushed over. Brother Hua, can you give me an autograph first? The voice beside him reminded him that they were in a public place. He suddenly came back to his senses. He smiled and took the notebook from the fan's hand. With a wave of his hand, a gorgeous signature appeared on the paper. Fate was so coincidental that his luggage carousel was next to Yi Huanyan's. Perhaps it was this coincidence at the airport that made him sure of his feelings for Yi Huanyan. She said that obsession and guilt had troubled him for 10 years. Then, after letting go of the guilt and obsession, he peeled open his heart layer by layer and found that there was still love. And it wasn't just a little bit. The woman in front of him was not far away from him. She was wearing white sneakers, blue jeans, and a khaki-colored button-down coat. He could not tell that she was a mature woman who had been working for a long time. Whether it was the refreshing ponytail on her head, her clean face without makeup, or even the panicked look on her face when she saw that there were so many fans. All of it made him feel moved. His original heart was her, and his heart was also her. Now his heart was full of love, and it was all for her. Yi Huanyan's luggage arrived early. She waved her hand at him from afar, indicating that she wanted to leave first. A trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes, but the crowd gradually surrounded him. There was nothing he could do. Li Dali saw all of this and blocked Su Nianhua's personal security with a few words. Then, he quietly appeared at the airport entrance and blocked Yi Huanyan's way. Miss Yi, it's too late now. It's not convenient to take a taxi. Why don't I give you a ride? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked at the nanny van not far away and hesitated. It was so late. She wouldn't be targeted by fans, right? Moreover, there were no cars at the airport at this time. The subway had stopped running. On a rainy day, there were very few taxis. Just now, she heard a car call a few people from different directions to carpool. At this time, people from different places had to carpool. How long would it take to go home? Chapter 113. Su Nianhua took his luggage and left the airport with the security guard. Behind him, 7 or 8 fans chased after him. They chased him all the way to the minivan. If the bodyguard didn't stop them, Su Nianhua even suspected that they would climb to the roof of the minivan. He got into the van and let out a long sigh of relief. Broly, why did you leave first? Oh yeah, I just saw Yin Yan. I saw her too. Li Dali turned around from the front passenger seat, but his gaze went over his shoulder and landed on the curtain behind him. Slender fingers pulled open the beige curtain with a whoosh sound. A delicate and sweet face appeared from a pile of clothes. She took a deep breath and exclaimed, I'm suffocating. Yin Yan? Su Nianhua opened his eyes wide. Why are you so surprised? Yi Huanyan's lips curled up slightly as she exchanged a smile with Li Dali. Broly saw that I couldn't find a taxi, so he gave me a ride. You don't mind, right? Of course I don't mind. Su Nianhua was so happy that he was incoherent. Why are you at the airport? Where did you come from? I wanted to ask you, but there were too many people, and I didn't want to cause you trouble. Yi Huanyan looked indifferent. She changed her direction and sat in the chair opposite to Su Nianhua. The company organized a trip to Bali. I came back early because I had something to do. Bali? That's a good place. Did you have fun? It's okay. Yi Huanyan looked reluctant. Su Nianhua was slightly stunned. From her forced smile, he saw a trace of sadness. He guessed that this trip was probably not going to be so smooth. He thought for a while and looked up. Yin Yan, I brought you a gift from France this time. Broly, where's the gift bag? I bought it in Paris yesterday. A faint sigh came from the front passenger seat. Bro Hua, you said there were more than a dozen gift bags of different sizes. They filled a box and were sent directly from France. How could it arrive so quickly? And how would I know which one you're talking about? The pink one. Oh, perfume. Li Dali rummaged through his backpack and took out a pink square box and placed it in the back seat. It's here. This thing is small. I put it in your bag. I tried this perfume in the shop, and it tastes pretty good. That's why I bought it for you. When the pink box was handed to Yi Huanyan, she was slightly stunned. Her gaze was focused on the white furry ball on the box. It's so cute. This? Opening the box, there was a transparent pink bottle of perfume in the shape of a water droplet, with a string of French words written on it. Try it. He smiled. I think it suits you. It's quite expensive, isn't it? I'm sorry for making you spend so much money. Do you want me to give you the money? Are you planning to treat me as a purchasing agent? Su Nianhua's eyes were filled with resentment. Li Dali's laughter came from the front passenger seat. Miss Yi, you don't have to be so polite. Brother Hua's money is enough for you to soak in the perfume bathtub every day. You don't have to be so polite with him. This kind of nouveau riche description made Yi Huanyan burst out laughing. Soak in the bathtub and take a perfume bath? Who is going to suffocate? Then I won't be polite with you. Next time, I'll treat you to a meal. Yi Huanyan tilted her head and revealed a sly smile. Sure enough, girls have no immunity to anything cute. Su Nianhua looked at her smiling face as she fiddled with the perfume, and a gentle look appeared in the corner of his eyes. After chatting for a while, when the car drove into Jinjiang Park, Yi Huanyan realized that she forgot to tell Li Dali where she lived. He naturally drove to Jinjiang Park. She raised her wrist and glanced at it. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning. She was too embarrassed to ask them to give her a ride. Thinking that Ling Han was still in Bali, it wasn't a big deal for her to stay here for one night, so she got out of the car. Su Nianhua stood in front of the car door with a gentle look on his face. When my tour ends this year, let's have a good gathering with my former classmates. If they see you, they will be very surprised. Yi Huanyan looked at him with a smile. After all, how many people's classmates would become such a famous singer? Brother Hua, get in the car and leave. You still have to catch a flight to Xicheng tomorrow morning. Li Dali urged in the car, and did not forget to look at Yi Huanyan apologetically. Miss Yi, please persuade him. He has been working nonstop for so long. It's rare for him to have some time to rest. He should take a good rest. I'm not tired. Sun Yanhua seemed to dislike Li Dali's meddling. Fine, I said too much. Li Dali tilted his head and looked at Yi Huanyan. If you're not tired, why don't you ask Miss Yi if she's tired? It's an 8-hour drive from Bali to Lanjiang. I heard that it rained later today. Your body can't take it. It was this that made Sun Yanhua stop and get in the car. Yi Huanyan carried the pink perfume box and pulled the suitcase to Ling Han's apartment. The password was the same as before, and it opened with a simple press. She fumbled around in the kitchen to boil water. In the dark, she heard a frightened scream. Who is it? Yi Huanyan froze. If it wasn't for the familiar voice, she would have dropped the cup. It's me. Ling Ling was a light sleeper and had a habit of waking up in the middle of the night. When she heard the noise, she came out. Oh, Miss Yi, why didn't you turn on the lights? You scared me. I thought it was a thief. Where's the young master? Did he come back together? Ling Ling fumbled around and turned on the lights. She looked around but didn't see Ling Han. Yi Huanyan took a tissue and wiped the water stains on the marble countertop. She was a little absent-minded. Ling Ling, I have some special circumstances, so I'm staying here for a night. Can you not tell Ling Han that I stayed here? The young master didn't come back? Yeah, he didn't come back. He'll probably stay in Bali for about 10 days. But don't worry, I'm only staying here for one night. I'll leave tomorrow morning. The driver who sent me back drove the wrong way. Ling Ling sighed in relief. No wonder. Missy has been here for so long. She must be not used to moving so suddenly. She probably gave the wrong address when she came back from the airport. Yeah, I guess so. Yi Huanyan looked a little embarrassed. Then you can stay here. I won't say anything. Ling Ling's eyes were full of sincerity. It's all thanks to you that I was able to stay here. Thank you. Miss Yi, do you want to eat anything? I'll make you supper. No. You're welcome. I'm not being polite. It's what I should do. Yi Huanyan couldn't persuade Ling Ling in the end. She sat on the sofa and looked at the busy figure in the kitchen with a coat on. She felt warm in her heart. The kindness of strangers could always quickly heal people's hearts. It was like feeling that the world was warm and reliable, because you didn't expect much from them. As for those relatives who had been with you for 10 or 20 years, because you loved them and had done so much for them, you had too many expectations from them. That was why they could always bring you disappointment in the world. No matter what, tonight was a warm night. Chapter 114. On the afternoon of Yi Huanyan's departure by flight, holiday in Bali, Sheng Enren, wearing a black bikini with a white lace hollowed-out smock, attracted the eyes of countless men and women on the beach. She was born as a print model, although her height of 1.75 meters was not as high as those runway models, who were easily more than 1.8 meters. Her figure was known as a 9-headed beauty in the modeling industry, which was extremely close to the golden ratio. At this time, 2 slender long legs passed gracefully in the waves, and the 36D chest surged with a little movement. Cold, the sea is a little cold. She shouted sweetly into the distance. This shout made the hearts of the people on the beach melt. 5 or 6 meters away from Sheng Anren, Ling Han was wearing a colorful floral underwear and standing on the beach with his upper body naked. He glanced in the direction of Sheng Anren with a dispirited expression. The waves were rolling, and a wave came over. There was a woman's scream and play on the beach, which was very pleasant, especially Sheng Anren. The sea water wet her smock, and her perfect figure was looming under the smock, which was a little more sexy than not wearing clothes. The men on the beach were all staring. Cold, the sea is so cold. Sheng Anren trotted to Ling Han's side and took his arm. She raised her head and showed him a warm smile. Her round chest rubbed against his arm so much that it felt elastic just by looking at it. It was obvious that the famous flower had a master. The envious men had to take back their naked eyes, but they did not forget to look at it secretly. Ling Han turned a blind eye to her attentions and looked up at the other side of the sea with a cold look. Since it's too cold, go back to the hotel. I don't mean that. Sheng Imran thought that her nagging made Ling Han dissatisfied, so she quickly changed her words. Do you want to stay here? Ling Han pulled out his arm, and a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. I'm tired. I'll go back to have a rest. Looking at the figure of Ling Han, Sheng Imran frowned slightly. She didn't know what she had done to make him unhappy. In addition to being annoyed, she caught a glimpse of another beach. Mr. Li was lying under a parasol and enjoying the sea breeze. Zhao Bingqing was lying on her side and was diligently handing juice to Mr. Li. This girl was originally just used as a gun, but she didn't expect to meet Mr. Li's appetite. She was quite capable. If I can get the contract from Mr. Li, Ling Han's attitude towards me will change. Sheng Imran's mouth raised a meaningful arc. If you want to keep a man's heart, you have to help him get what he wants most and become the most valuable person around him. Compared with any feelings, Ling Han is a man who puts his career first. So only if you have an indispensable role in his career can you stay with him for a long time. This is the reality. In the evening, Sheng Imran returned to the suite with a red face and a little smell of alcohol. She held a contract in her hand and stared at the door of Ling Han's room for a long time. She bit her lips and a charm flashed in her eyes. Just as she was about to knock on the door, she suddenly thought of something. She glanced at the contract in her hand, and the corner of her eyes raised a successful arc. She turned into the bathroom of her bedroom. She was wearing a wine-red suspender nightdress with black lace on the side, revealing her smooth and flawless thighs. Her skin was tight and elastic. She looked at herself in the mirror and was very satisfied with her state today. She didn't believe that she couldn't get Ling Han tonight. Talk, talk, talk. Han, I have a surprise for you. Han, if you don't speak, I'll go in. Do you know, it was not easy for me to get the contract from Mr. Li for you. Turning the door, Sheng Imran's voice stopped abruptly. There was no one in the room, and the suitcase in the corner disappeared. All this silently showed that he had left. 10 minutes later, Rui Shui and Lin Jia hurried in together, looking nervous. Sister Imran, the front desk said that Mr. Ling left 2 hours ago. He didn't check out the room, but he left a note for you at the front desk. What note? Give it to me. Sheng Imran's face flashed a strange light. When she saw that the suitcase was gone, she knew that Ling Han had left. It was not the first time that he had disappeared from her side silently. She had gradually gotten used to it. Although she was not reconciled, she had to admit that she was just like what Yi Huanyan had said. In his heart, she was just a flower vase and did not have much weight. At this moment, when she heard that Ling Han had left a message for her, she suddenly felt a glimmer of hope. This was something that had never happened before. Rui Shui handed over a white note, her fingertips trembling, and her face was nervous, as if she was afraid that Sheng Imran would be angry at the moment. The black handwriting on the note was strong and powerful, and at the end was his signature. Imran, please tell the company's staff that the company is busy, so I need to go back to deal with it in advance. It's a rare holiday. I hope you have a good time, Ling Han. In addition to the last 2 words of the signature were written by Ling Han. The first line of words was upright, but there was no natural and unrestrained style. It was obvious that someone had written it for him, and from the respectful and polite tone, there was no need to think about it to know that the company had temporarily sent an assistant to Ling Han. Sister Imran, Mr. Ling He. What did he say? Rui Shui asked carefully. The note was clenched in Sheng Imran's palm, and her nails were embedded in the flesh. But on the surface, she glanced at the 2 people in front of her and smiled slightly. Her voice was sweet and flawless. Nothing. Mr. Ling had to go back temporarily. He asked me to entertain the company's customers and artists for him. Lin Jia was not a person who could read the mood. She frowned and asked, Go back temporarily? Secretary, you just left in the morning, and Mr. Ling left. Is it? Sheng Imran's face suddenly sank. Rui Shui hurriedly pulled Lin Jia's arm and blinked at her desperately. You go out first. I don't want a 4th person to know that Mr. Ling has left for the time being. Sheng Imran suppressed her anger, but her voice trembled a little. Her position and identity were all supported by Ling Han. If these people knew that Ling Han had left her alone and returned home early, then everything before would become a laughing stock. Lin Jie seemed to want to say something, but she was pulled out by Rui Shui and closed the door. You're crazy. You didn't see Xing Inren's face. What else do you want to say? I just want to remind Sister Inren that Secretary Yi and Mr. Ling may be. Do you think Xing Inren can't see the things that you can see? Rui Shui mercilessly interrupted Lin Jie's words. At the same time, there was a sudden clanging sound in the room, and even the door shook twice. No one knew what hit it. The two people in the corridor froze. Rui Shui rolled her eyes at Lin Jie and strode toward her room without looking back. Sooner or later, I'll be dragged to death by you. Hey, Xiao Shui, wait for me. I didn't mean it. Chapter 115. Lanjiang City, Jinjiang Park Villa District. A black business car slowly drove in from the entrance of the residential area and finally stopped in front of the courtyard of the three-story villa. A man in a suit who looked like an assistant opened the car door. His slender legs stepped out of the car door, and his shiny leather shoes raised a trace of dust on the ground. You go back to the company first. Don't tell anyone that I'm back. Yes, Mr. Ling. Ling was having breakfast in the living room. Because Yi Huanyan came back in the early hours of the night before, she deliberately arranged breakfast after 9 o'clock. Before setting the table, she knocked on Yi Huanyan's door. Ling Han entered the password and directly opened the door. When he was changing his shoes at the entrance, he saw Ling's surprised expression. Young master, you should be in Bali, right? Ling Han changed his shoes, threw his coat on the sofa and loosened the tie around his neck. Something came up, so I came back early. His eyes caught sight of the breakfast on the table, and his expression slightly froze. At this moment, the door of the bedroom on the first floor, facing his direction, suddenly opened. Yi Huanyan stood at the door in pink bear pajamas, with a toothbrush in her mouth, and asked vaguely with her eyes closed. Ling, why isn't the water coming out of the bathroom? Ling was stunned in the living room. Her eyes stiffly moved from Ling Han to Yi Huanyan. Ling? Hearing no response, Yi Huanyan opened her eyes in a daze. At this moment, a tall figure quickly came into view and was looking at her with a gloomy face. Bam! The pink toothbrush fell on the floor, and the toothpaste foam splashed all over the floor. You're not. Aren't you supposed to be in Bali? She asked the same question in her heart as Ling, but Ling Han did not answer. The door was closed with a bang. Ling Han stood behind the door with a gloomy face. Without any explanation, he locked both of them in the room and isolated them from the outside world. Yi Huanyan staggered and fell onto the bed less than a meter away from the door. Her whole body stiffened. I should be the one asking you that. Yi Huanyan, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Who asked you to come back from Bali? And why are you here? He stood at the door and did not approach, but his expression was terrifyingly dark. Yi Huanyan shrunk her shoulders, feeling guilty and panicked. I came back too late last night. My flight was delayed and I gave the wrong address at the airport. Huh? A cold laugh sounded in the room. Gave the wrong address? How accustomed are you to living here? I'm leaving now. She raised her head, looked around, and hurriedly crouched down to pack the suitcase at the end of the bed. Just in time. Once you're done, you can move to your original room on the second floor. A cold voice sounded behind her, which made Yi Huanyan think it was an illusion. She turned around in a daze and couldn't believe it. You mean I don't have to move? Are you happy? Ling Han's lips curled into a smile. He bent his index finger and gently lifted her chin. This is your reward for flying back from Bali early. Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of hesitation. My luggage over there. Before you move in, I'll get someone to move it out for you. Yi Huanyan abruptly looked into his eyes. His eyes were filled with mockery and ridicule towards her. In a moment of desperation, she forgot her own situation and blurted out in a loud voice. You want her to move in with us? Ling Han's eyes suddenly darkened. Our house. Yi Huanyan's eyes froze. She knew she had said something wrong, A layer of fear gradually appeared on her face. Who gave you the courage to say these 3 words? That's the property of the Ling family. It has nothing to do with you. Remember, Yi Huanyan, I don't only want Sheng Anren to move in, I'll also make her the new owner of that house. I beg you don't. She bit her lip. Her heart suddenly contracted, making her feel a sharp pain in her chest. That was the only place where she had good memories with him. That was the only place where she could truly remember how she had integrated into the Ling family, and even the life of the man in front of her in the past 10 years. Now you know how to beg me? Ling Han shook off her chin in disgust and looked down at the woman kneeling on the ground with no dignity. When I advised you not to leave Bali, why didn't you think about the consequences of disobeying me? This is a small punishment for you. You said that as long as I was willing to give up the job of pleasure, you could let me go. I'm willing now. I beg you, don't let Sheng Anren move in. It's too late. I also told you to go back home immediately after getting off the plane, but you didn't do it. There was no sympathy in Ling Han's eyes. He opened the door and left a sentence indifferently. Remember, don't go against my words in the future. You think you're not afraid of anything, but in fact, you can lose a lot of things, and it's easy for me to make you lose them. You're so cruel. Her choked voice came from behind. She had always had expectations for him. Even at this moment, she still hoped that he would change his mind. But only his cold voice came from the door. Only a cruel person can live a good life. Didn't Jiang Milan teach you that? No one could change his decision. Yi Huanyan looked at the pink toothbrush lying on the ground at the door, and the traces of white toothpaste foam that had dried up beside it. Her eyes were filled with sadness. It was natural for the son to repay the father's debt, and the daughter to repay the mother's debt. Ling Han ignored Ling Ling's question of whether he wanted to eat breakfast. He went straight upstairs and locked himself in the study. On his phone was a text message from Sheng Anren when he just got off the plane. Han, I've done what I promised you. What about what you promised me? I hope you can give me a surprise when I go back. The phone dialed a number. His voice was calm and emotionless. After the call was connected, a delicate voice came from the other end of the phone. Han, did you get off the plane? You left without saying anything. I even took the contract back to the hotel to look for you, to give you a surprise. Did you get the contract? Of course, for you. I can do anything. Thank you, Anren. Ling Han's voice was gentler. Then, what about what you promised me? Sheng Anren's voice was a little coquettish. And you left me alone in Bali, and just went back like this. Aren't you going to compensate me? Ling Han's eyes were covered with a thin layer of frost. Although it was sweet and coquettish, there was no lack of threat in it. He couldn't guarantee that if he didn't agree with her, what kind of reason would she use to send this contract to him in the next second? Sheng Anren had never been the kind of woman with big breasts and no brain. She could sit in the position of movie queen today. In addition to her beauty, her intelligence was also incomparable to ordinary people. Therefore, she could stay with him for so long. Whether it was the profit that pleasure could transfer from her every year, it was also the cooperation opportunities that she could help him win. When I come back, I'll send someone to help you move your things to Fujin Court. Fujin Court? Don't you live in Jinjiang Court? A puzzled voice came from the other end of the phone. Fujin Court is where my parents and I used to live. What, you don't want to? No. I want to. The ecstasy on the other end of the phone seemed to jump out. Chapter 116. Before going to Bali, Sheng Anren vaguely suspected the relationship between Yi Huanyan and Ling Han. There were women's belongings in Ling Han's house, and they were very expensive. They definitely did not belong to the servant, who looked like a country bumpkin. Excluding Ji Xiaoya, who was rumored to have an affair with Ling Han, but had resigned in the personnel record, there was only Yi Huanyan, whom she saw with her own eyes walking out of Ling Han's villa in the middle of the night. Although Qiao Mu did not confess, her woman's intuition told her that Yi Huanyan was definitely the woman who lived with Ling Han. And if she wanted to be promoted, the first step was to push this woman away, starting from living together, and then find a way to become Mrs. Ling. So she offered to help Ling Han negotiate the contract with President Li. And the condition was that she wanted to move into the villa in Jinjiang Court and live with him after the deal was done. However, Ling Han gave her a better choice that she could not refuse. As Ling Han said, the house in Fujing Court was where Ling Han's parents lived, so the person who lived there was naturally a very important person in the Ling family, which was equivalent to admitting her identity as the hostess in a disguised way. Even if Yi Huanyan still lived in Jinjiang Court, so what? The person who could live in the most meaningful house in the Ling family was the future Mrs. Ling Han. Thank you. I'm so happy. The sweet voice coming from the phone could almost make most men in the world feel a sense of achievement, but Ling Han frowned. It's nothing. You deserve it. Pleasure was his world. It was easy to fight for power, but difficult to keep it. What he was facing now was the problem of the board of directors abusing power. Although it was not serious, he had to be prepared in advance. He did not care how much gossip he had. Most of those women were female artists in the company. If there was news, there would be exposure. And if there was exposure, he could successfully make them popular. At worst, he could clear their names later. As long as there were these popular artists, Pleasure's annual income was enough to shut the mouths of those people on the board of directors. After Ling Dongming left, he truly felt the pressure of managing a large company. This was also the reason why he couldn't blame his father, even though he knew that it wasn't his fault for cheating. He had already endured enough pressure, so there was nothing to be sorry about. Everyone had their own selfish desires. Ling Dongming's selfish desires were lust that couldn't be rationally controlled, while Ling Han's selfish desires were hatred that couldn't be rationally controlled. He went downstairs from the study. The food on the dining table was untouched. Yi Huanyan's door was closed. Ling Han glanced at Ling Ling. She understood and carefully explained. Miss Yi didn't come out. I knocked on the door, but didn't hear any response. Maybe she came back too late last night and went to sleep again. Ling Han frowned as he looked at Yi Huanyan's door. He strode over, raised his hand and knocked twice. Yi Huanyan, I'll give you 10 minutes. Come out and eat. There was no response from inside the room. Ling Han pushed open the door. On the beige bed, a thin and weak body was curled up under the blanket. Her back was facing him, and her posture was stiff. It was obvious that she wasn't asleep at all. Ling Han's brows were tinged with coldness. He turned around, picked up the tray and strode in. When I'm talking to you properly, do as I say. I'm not eating. Yi Huanyan still maintained her posture with her back to him. Her voice was muffled, and she had a rebellious attitude. Ling Han's eyes turned cold. Get up. I said I'm not eating. She gritted her teeth, pulled the blanket over her head, and looked like she was going to fight to the end. Ling Han didn't have much patience to begin with. When he saw this, he put the tray on the cabinet beside him, violently pulled the blanket away, and directly lifted her up. He wrapped one hand around her shoulder, grabbed the back of her neck, and stuffed a piece of toast into her mouth with the other hand. At first she was still struggling. Perhaps it was because of the overnight flight and the shock just now. Her body gradually couldn't take it anymore. The moment he pinched her chin, her teeth loosened, and a piece of toast was violently stuffed into her mouth. She was choked and felt uncomfortable. She covered her chest, and her face turned red. Then, she directly drank half a cup of milk, and only then did it ease the toast in her throat. The bed was a mess. There were breadcrumbs and milk stains. It was like the scene of an insensible child after a big fight. Halfway through the milk, she probably choked. She covered her chest and coughed violently. Ling Han felt suffocated. He shook her body off and put down the cup of milk heavily. His face was extremely dark. You're protesting by going on a hunger strike. Who are you trying to threaten? Every cent you used was given to you by the Ling family. What right do you have to talk to me about that house? Yi Huanyan raised her head with tears in her eyes. She saw the figure standing by the bed. His expensive suit was a mess. She pursed her lips, and for a moment she was speechless. She was just living under someone else's roof. What right did she have to be picky? She slowly moved to the side of the bed, picked up the plate, and put the fried egg into her mouth with a fork. She ate the fruit and drank the milk on the side. She lowered her head the whole time, holding back her tears, and stuffed her cheeks until they were bulging. Ling Han's voice returned to normal, and there was a trace of unwillingness in his eyes. When he left a sentence. Clean yourself up after you're done eating. The moment he walked out of the room, Ling Han felt very stuffy in his chest. Yi Huanyan was a person with sharp edges. She had a personality like a wild cat, and she was too stubborn. He hadn't seen her fight with anyone for a long time. Although the words "I don't" made him angry, it made him miss it even more. Many years ago, she also shouted at Jiang Milin at home like this: "I don't want to learn the violin." Or, "What's the point of playing the piano? I don't want it." Or, "I want that album. If you don't buy it, I'll go on a hunger strike." Or, "Brother Ling Han, what's your relationship with that woman? I don't like her." "I don't" used to be her synonym. She had a lot of resistance in her heart. Not long after she came to the Ling family, she ushered in the rebellious period. He, who had been respectful to his parents since he was young, had never experienced such resistance. He had never had the chance to say "I don't." After Yi Huanyan finished eating, Ling Ling went into the room to clean up the mess. When she saw the mess on the bed, she couldn't help but sigh. She was obviously young, but she used an experienced tone to comfort Yi Huanyan. "Miss Yi, don't be stubborn with young master. Young master's temper has always been firm. He can be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. Why do you have to be like this?" Yi Huanyan was a little numb to these words. She had comforted herself like this before, but the more she comforted herself, the more it seemed that it was natural for her to endure. She had forgotten that she was once an arrogant young lady. "Where is he?" Young master just went out directly. Do you need me to call and ask where he went?" "There's no need. It was good that he went out." After a short handshake, it was indeed stormy again. The room on the second floor was where her nightmare began. Now that she was going back to the starting point, she had to adapt to it before he came back. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.